about this. And in the words of one woman we heard from, she said, look, we don't need carbon copies of Zoran around the country, she said, but we need leaders who have some of the things that he has, which is an ability to hear what the voters need and want and an ability to respond to that. In other words, he's been talking about dollars and cents this entire campaign. That's what propelled him into the lead. And looking at our exit polls tonight in these key races, what's the number one issue of concern, Major? But inflation, the economy, the cost of things. That's what he's talked about. That's why many believe he's going to win big tonight.
Ed, you made a mention of juniors. I am such a frequent customer to juniors. They have practically given me a platinum credit card, but that's another issue for another day. Our coverage will continue in less than 1 hour here on CBS News 24/7 at 9 o'clock Eastern. This has been a CBS News special report. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. We'll see you in a bit.
The all-new CBS Evening News.
Lay is facing up to $1 million in tariff payments this year alone.
Zhou-Ling, is Lay going to be able to keep her workers under these conditions?
We don't have the same options as large businesses.
Can your business survive this?
If this is the end of my American dream, I'm going to go down swinging.
Sunday morning, curtain going up on the new season. Jennifer Lopez's new movie, Keanu Reeves on Broadway, and more. Listen for the trumpet.
Live now.
Here we go.
The ultimate tradition continues.
From what I've seen, it's like chaos.
America's #1 news program is now a free streaming channel with full episodes anytime.
Hey, let's go.
60 minutes. Is this what you want?
You're willing to talk about anything. I'm open to all of it.
The hardest hitting interviews.
The former president is known to watch 60 Minutes. If he's watching, what would you want to say to him?
Here, Bill, look at this.
The most influential people.
Who's the best coach in college football?
Let me see a mirror so I can look at it.
Are you a billionaire yet?
None of your business. Ain't you trying to get me robbed?
Exclusive investigations.
Am I getting a real look at what life is like in here today? Absolutely not.
Do you think people visiting know that these were looted?
For stories that impact our lives, 60 Minutes demands answers.
To those holding American hostages, you say what?
So many American officials are being targeted. Why is it not a bigger issue?
What is the most important takeaway for our audience?
What is your role in all of this?
How big of a problem is doping?
Where was the military?
Why are people suspicious?
That sounds like a problem.
How is this possible?
Oh, come on. Come on.
Whoa.
Wow.
What is going on?
I'm Scott Pelley.
I'm John Worth.
I'm Leslie Stahl.
I'm Bill Whitaker.
I'm Sharon Alfonsi.
I'm Cecilia Vega.
I'm Anderson Cooper.
This is 60 Minutes.
The CBS News original.
Showtime, baby.
It's time for 60 Minutes. Watch anytime.
To be moderator of Face the Nation means bringing the most powerful stakeholders to the table to become better informed.
When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives?
Ready?
Yeah. You ready?
And 1, 2, 3. Hey!
I can see clearly now.
Look at this outfit. Amazing. Give me some love, baby.
We got a toy. Look at this.
Oh, no! Time for another quick meal you can make any night of the week.
We've got tips to save on clothes, tech,
and more.
How I got here is nothing short of like a miracle.
Talent.
Talent.
It's gonna be alright.
It's a bright, bright, bright way to start your day.
See you
on CBS Mornings.
The CBS Evening News, not like anything else on TV.
If people are watching this, what do you want to tell them?
We need help.
When your husband had a heart attack, if you had to go to the next closest hospital, how long would that take?
Over a half an hour.
The CBS Evening News.
We have reporters stationed around the country following key elections in several states. The polls have already closed in the Virginia gubernatorial race, but are still open right now in New Jersey, Texas, Pennsylvania, New York City, and California. And with the economy top of mind for many voters, candidates on both sides of the aisle make it a central focus to their campaigns, promising voters they will work to make everything from groceries to electricity more affordable.
It's painful to see all the areas in which we're failing, whether it's housing, public education, public safety, the affordability crisis because of property taxes and monthly electricity bills.
I speak to thousands and thousands of New Jerseyans sometimes a day, and the thing on their minds is cost, both utility costs, housing costs, healthcare costs, and then how they keep getting worse under this administration.
All across Virginia, where people are talking about the real challenges of everyday life, whether it's affordability, your rent going up, food prices going up.
Energy, oil and gas, she said she's going to get rid of. And then what do we do? What do we do for energy? We cannot afford this woman. She is just wrong for Virginia.
And President Trump zeroed in on energy costs to push for the Republican candidates in today's key races. He posted to social media in part, quote, "If affordability is your issue, vote Republican. Energy costs, as an example, are plummeting." Now, the CBS News price tracker breaks down just how much Americans are paying when it comes to electricity. This graph shows a steady rise since 2022. For utility gas prices aren't quite as high as they were in 2023, but they have climbed since last year. CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady breaks down who is feeling the biggest strain.
So it really depends on what kind of energy you're talking about, because, you know, the president is right. In many ways, energy prices are down. You look at gas prices, we're right around $3.05. I mean, that is really low for the national average. That's for a gallon of gas. And that has come down steadily over the past few months. There have been a couple hiccups here and there, but generally the trend has been downward. But then when you talk about electricity, as you were just talking about with Skylar, you know, over the past year, it has risen 5.1%. That's the national average. Of course, in some specific areas, it's risen an outsized amount. And then utility piped gas. You think about, you know, the winter is coming. You need to heat your home. That's actually risen 11.7% over the past year. And so those are the things that we're really seeing as an issue. And I just want to zero in on New Jersey for a second, because I have a few stats, Jules, that I think are pretty startling. You know, the average utility bill for New Jersey in September, October, November, it's going to be about $127 a month. And the New Jersey is 20% above the national average. So particularly there, we've heard from 80% of New Jersey voters going back to a poll in the summer that they think that their electric bills are too high. And so just to answer the second question of who's feeling it most, it's the middle income and lower income folks, because those staples, especially when it comes to energy as you go into the fall, that's taking more of your share of wallet, more of your budget, and you have less for other things.
Let's take you to California now, where voters there are weighing in on Proposition 50, which could decide whether to allow redrawing the state's congressional maps. Now, the new map would take 5 congressional districts and make them more favorable to Democrats. Now, Prop 50 is California's answer to Texas's redistricting to make their districts more favorable to Republicans. And it comes as redistricting efforts unfold across the country in an unusual burst ahead of next year's midterm elections. Red states like Texas, Missouri, and North Carolina already signed new maps into law. Blue states like Illinois, New York, and Virginia potentially joining California in the same effort. CBS News Bay Area reporter Max Darrow is live for us at the California Democratic Party headquarters in Sacramento, California. Max, how are California voters thinking about this redistricting measure, and what are the national implications of this?
There really is a lot at stake here for California, the country, and for Governor Gavin Newsom, who we are expected to hear from later tonight here at the Democratic Party headquarters in Sacramento. He's really been leading the charge for Prop 50. He and lawmakers here in California moved to push this onto the ballot as a response to the redistricting plans in Texas that were done at the request of President Trump that ultimately would likely result in the GOP getting 5 more congressional seats ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. Now, if voters pass this tonight here in California, Democrats likely would pick up 5 more seats in the House ahead of the elections next year. So CBS News polling is showing that a good amount of support for Prop 50, a good amount for it in the home stretch here. 62% of likely voters saying they plan to vote yes on Prop 50, 38% saying they plan to vote no. But if we zoom out to talk more big picture redistricting efforts across the country, CBS News poll today shows that the majority of Americans don't think either the Democrats or Republicans are handling redistricting fairly. 27% said they think Democrats are being fair. 12% the Republicans are being fair. 53% of respondents said neither party is being fair with the way they are approaching redistricting efforts ahead of the 2026 midterm election. Now, early voting has been going on for some time now in California. The latest returns, which were as of Monday, showed that 7.2 million ballots had been cast so far. The polls are still open for a couple more hours here on the West Coast, so we'll be watching closely. Elizabeth?
As we will. Max Darrow, thank you so much. Or coming up, breaking news out of Kentucky, where a UPS cargo plane crashed near the Louisville airport. Authorities expected to give an update very soon on the crash that left multiple people injured. Stay with us.
No matter how you start your day, one thing is very clear.
CBS Mornings is the best way to start your day.
You better work!
Clearly. We welcome you to CBS Mornings. I'm Gail King.
I'm Tony Nicole. I'm Nate Burleson.
Let's go.
CBS Mornings is clearly smart.
Is this a different way of doing philanthropy?
Rent at an affordable level and invest.
Could this change the way that we think about vaccines?
CBS Mornings is clearly fun. Don't you bow to your emperor.
She said,
hello, Miss Badass. We go from one badass to another.
It's like, yes, it's finally happening.
You meet the nicest people in our progressive green room. Guess who's here?
Jeff!
CBS Mornings is clearly uplifting.
I get goosebumps when I think about this game.
It just warms your heart. I feel alive. You will too.
We'll see you
On CBS Mornings.
Weekdays at 7. Have a sunshiny day.
Fire away, you know me, man.
UFC's no-holds-barred leader. It's time for Dana White.
Yeah, I get it. We're on 60 Minutes.
When you need your sports in us now,
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
This is CBS.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go. With the 48 Hours podcast. Real crimes, real lives.
Like a John Grisham novel come to life.
Real justice.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Listen to 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts.
The all-new CBS Evening News.
Lay is facing up to $1 million in tariff payments this year alone.
Zhou-Ling, is Lay going to be able to keep her workers under these conditions?
We don't have the same options as large businesses.
Can your business survive this?
If this is the end of my American dream, I'm going to go down swinging.
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the Takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity and formality and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who is a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you? Oh, come on. Join me on the Takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7.
Welcome back to CBS News 24/7 Prime Time. I'm Elizabeth Cook. Americans across the country today voting in many key races from Virginia to New Jersey to New York City, and several other states, including California, have statewide questions on their ballots that could impact every single American. Let's go to CBS News correspondent Ian Lee. Ian, you're also watching two propositions out of Colorado that will decide the future of the state's school meals program. What can you tell us?
Hi, Elizabeth. Yeah, the program is called Healthy School Meals for All. Essentially, it gives free breakfast and lunch to all of Colorado's school children. And so on the ballot, they're going to be asking voters if they want to continue this program or stop this program. The other initiative is there's about $12 million that has already been collected for this program. They're asking voters if they want to put that money back into it or if they're going to have it as a tax rebate. Now, last week I was talking to two Colorado voters who are on different sides of this issue. One of them said, of course, they want children to have free school lunches and breakfast, and that it's the right thing to do. The other person said they also agree that children should be able to have free breakfast and free lunch, but they disagree on how that is coming about. They say that the government already taxes them enough and that the government needs to be more efficient, find that money elsewhere instead of just taxing the people to fund these programs.
And Ian, you're also keeping an eye on Maine, where voters there will decide on two high-profile ballot measures. What can you tell us about those?
Yeah, the first measure talks about voter ID for elections. So voters are going to be asked if they want to join more than 30 states that already require an identification to vote. The second initiative goes for absentee voting. If that's passed, it'll greatly restrict absentee voting. That people can't call for their ballot, they can't pick it up for their loved one. If you're someone who automatically has your ballot sent to you every year, that will also be stopped. So voters are going to decide that. The second proposition is a red flag law that will have loved ones request a court to take away the weapon of someone they love if that person is at risk of harming themselves or someone else. Now, Maine already has a yellow flag law that is a similar, more clunky process to take away someone's weapon they believe is a threat. So voters in Maine will have a direct say on whether that red flag law will go into effect.
Ian Lee, thank you so much. All right, let's bring in CBS News Chief Washington Analyst Robert Costa. Robert, thank you so much for being with us on this election night. I know a very busy night for you. I want to start with Proposition 50 out of California. You spoke to Governor Gavin Newsom a couple of weeks ago. How much of this race is about redrawing congressional districts? And how much of it is about Donald Trump and Governor Newsom, frankly, starting his campaign for president?
Both of these issues are intertwined. You have in Governor Newsom someone who sees on the horizon a real opportunity for Democrats to constrain the Trump presidency in the 2026 midterm elections next year. But to do that, they first have to win the House majority. If they want subpoena power, if they want the ability to hold the Trump administration to account, you need to have the House majority. And Governor Newsom told me he has been watching Texas and other Republican-leaning states mount their own redistricting efforts to try to get more Republican seats in the House to protect President Trump. And he effectively said, we're going to do the same thing in California, but try to help Democrats get seats. So if Governor Newsom and his effort, Prop 50, is successful tonight, that could mean Democrats really have a much better shot at winning the majority in 2026. And look, when I talk to Democratic sources across the country, including in early voting states, they say, if Governor Newsom can have his fingerprints over a House majority next year, it would certainly set him up quite well to launch a presidential bid.
On to another race that we're closely following tonight, Robert. The country and the White House lasered focused on the New York mayoral race. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said he does not believe that Zohran Mamdani is the future of the Democratic Party. Is there concern, Robert, that even if Mamdani wins this election, that will widen the divide within the Democratic Party?
It's certainly going to be an explosive issue inside the Democratic Party because it's going to force a reckoning on how Democratic leaders in every state in Congress see the issue of democratic socialism. Zohran Mamdani, I've covered his campaign up close to New York. He frames his political ideology as something that's oriented toward working Americans. And he sees himself essentially as an heir to Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont and the political movement he built in 2016 in 2020. Other Democrats look at Zohran Mamdani and they see his positions on foreign policy, especially on the issue of Israel and Gaza, and they see his statements in economics, and they see someone who's far too much to the left. But in the future, the Democratic Party is going to have to contend, whether it's in 2026 or 2028, with this rising coalition of progressives who see in Zohran Mamdani the future of the Democratic Party, and they don't want a party that's too aligned with corporate America.
Robert Costa, thank you so much for spending the time with us tonight. I know you're going to be very busy. Good luck.
Thank you.
To Texas now, where voters are casting their ballots in a special election to fill Houston's open seat for its 18th congressional district. A whopping 16 candidates are vying for that seat. CBS News reporter Shauna Mazel spoke to voters in Texas.
Well, I've been here in Houston, Texas all day talking to voters at this polling location, and voting is currently still underway. But the race that we've all been paying attention to is for Texas District 18. This is a congressional district, and the seat has actually been vacant since March of this year. That is when Sylvester Turner, who held the seat, passed away. He was the beloved mayor of Houston, and Governor Greg Abbott decided not to hold a special election. So this district has gone quite some time without any representation in Congress. I actually had the opportunity to speak with two of the candidates that are running in this race. They are both front runners. That's Christian Menifee and Amanda Edwards. Let's take a listen to what they had to say.
What folks want to see is someone who's intelligent enough, who's thoughtful enough to use the tools at your disposal to do what the day calls for. Some days that's going to be fight. That means that when the president spends funds illegally, serving on the oversight committee and investigating him. That means that if articles of impeachment are filed, ensuring that we have vigorous advocates who are going to hold the president accountable. But it also means working across the aisle when there are opportunities to. I don't care if you're blue, red, or orange. If you want to work with me to help bring resources to the 18th congressional district, I'm happy to do that.
You want somebody who has the experience, the vision, and the skills to be ready on day one when it comes to making sure that we're waging this fight against the attack right now against our health care, against our economic stability, against our education. We're in a fight of a lifetime, and you need someone who's ready for that fight, but also someone who's ready for all the facets of the job.
Now, both Menifee and Edwards have expressed a lot of confidence going into the race today, but they are just two of 16 candidates. It is a very crowded field here. So it is likely that we could see a runoff election. It's going to be very difficult for one of those 16 candidates to hit that 50% majority, that threshold that would be needed to win this election. Now, if this does turn into a runoff, that would mean that Houstonians in this area would go even longer without representation in Congress. Now, what issues are top of mind for some of the voters that I spoke with? Well, a lot of them said that their top priority is electing someone that could come in to Washington, D.C. and fight against Donald Trump and Republican policies. We will continue to follow this race and the developments here throughout the evening. Back to you.
Thank you so much for that. Well, it's been less than an hour since polls closed in Virginia, where we are waiting to see which candidate will make history as the state's first female governor. Let's bring back CBS News correspondent Nicole Killian, who's live for us in Richmond, Virginia. Nicole, what's the latest there? What are you hearing?
Well, the crowd has built up considerably since we last spoke with you, but many people here are very excited and anticipating what they hope will be a Spanberger win tonight. So far, she is leading in the vote count, although it's still very early in the night. But coming into this race, she had been leading in most polls, in some cases by double digits, against her opponent, Winsome Earl Sears, the Republican incumbent lieutenant governor. So, a lot of this race has been focused on so many different dynamics, but Spanberger really tried to hone in on this issue of the economy, which, according to some of our exit polling, really seems to be resonating with some voters, particularly women voters, where it appears Spanberger has made some gains along with African Americans and younger voters under 30. So those were all key targets for her. We certainly saw her campaign over the weekend, for instance, with former President Barack Obama, hoping to drive turnout, particularly in the Hampton Roads area where there is a high African American population. But look, in terms of Lieutenant Governor Earl Sears, she told me that she is used to running hard races and that she was going to fight this race out until the end. According to our exit polling, she appears to be doing well, specifically with white evangelicals and conservatives. And, she really kind of stuck to, hewed very closely to the Trump agenda, but even kind of went further at times, bringing kind of culture war issues into this race, issues about transgender policy. Ultimately, she was unsuccessful in securing President Trump's endorsement, something she told me that you know, she would have to win this race on her own, that she has spoken with the president but kind of downplayed and not getting his endorsement. I mean, he did a tele-rally for her just yesterday and didn't even mention her by name. He did mention the Attorney General candidate in this race, Jason Miyares, who right now that race we're rating as a toss-up. And of course, that comes after a really controversial texting scandal involving the Democratic candidate, Jay Jones. And many Democratic voters we talked to today did express some concerns about those messages, some telling us they weren't inclined to support Jones. Some were thinking about splitting their ticket. So that is another dynamic we are watching as this race unfolds here tonight.
Nicole Killian, thank you so much. All right, let's go to our D.C. bureau now, where we have Chuck Rocha and Leslie Sanchez. Chuck is a CBS News political contributor and Democratic strategist, and Leslie is a CBS News political analyst and Republican strategist. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to ask each of you a question and give you both an opportunity to respond. We're keeping an eye on key races in New Jersey, Virginia, New York, California. Which race do you feel is the most crucial for each of your parties? Chuck, let's start with you.
I'd probably say New Jersey, because I feel pretty confident about Virginia. New Jersey is a place in America where Donald Trump in the last election made some of his biggest gains into Democratic strongholds. So tonight, I'm going to be watching if that bounces back. There's been a lot of anxiety out there. Donald Trump's numbers are in the tank. But does that reflect in tonight's election? That's why I'm keeping my eye on New Jersey, and specifically Passaic County and other Latino-heavy counties where Trump made big gains in the last election. I'm going to be watching to see if that swings back.
I want to talk about the Latino vote in just a minute there, Chuck, but I want to go to you, Leslie. Which race are you going to be looking for?
I'm still looking at the top of the ticket in Virginia. I think there, you have somebody in Lieutenant Governor Sears who had half the campaign chest, but twice as much of the optimism, twice as much of the hard work, and really focused on parents and the economy. I think she did a very strong close. It's really unfortunate. And in Virginia, I'd say the Commonwealth is one of those areas you can't really read too much
about the importance of this race. Thank you for recognizing that when we went person to person engaging, that we could bring people not just into supporting our campaign, but into engaging in our democracy. Thank you. We won this race because of you. To our campaign team, you're the best in the country. Every single member of our team, every single one of you, you work tirelessly for the change, the progress, the policies, the connection, and the respect that you want to see in our communities. Thank you for working so hard. Thank you for giving people hope. Thank you for knocking on doors in the sweltering heat. Thank you for showing kindness. Thank you for showing up in every corner of Virginia. Thank you for diving deep on policy. Thank you for capturing moments and the essence of our campaign. Thank you for reaching voters everywhere. And thank you for believing that Virginia could and would send a hopeful and joyful message tonight. Thank you for giving everything to this campaign and then some. And thank you to my family. To my husband, Adam. My partner in everything. I love you with my whole heart. I am grateful for you. And it is very strange to declare my love for you in front of millions of people. But every adventure we have ever been on has been worth it because you have been by my side. I love you. I'm grateful for you. And I cannot wait to see what the next couple of years bring. To my daughters, Claire, Charlotte, and Catherine, you inspire me and motivate me every single day. Everything I do to build a better future for you and for all of Virginia's children, and I am so proud of you every single day. I am lucky to be your mother. And Catherine, you did not clean your room today as you promised me. She's working on it. If I was working on it, we wouldn't have won this election, okay? To my sisters, my dearest and earliest friends, I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you. To my friends who have traveled from around the world to be here with me today, thank you. Thank you for making me who I am, and thank you for always believing in me. And to my parents, I love you. Thank you for leading by example every day. And I know that today is a day that you all could have never imagined. But you taught me the importance of service to others and relentless hard work. And Mama, when I think about your life, from the time spent in foster care to putting yourself through nursing school and the challenges along the way, you made clear to us that to whom much is given, much is expected. And you have given me so much, born of your own struggles and your own challenges, and I know much is expected. And Dad, thank you for your example of service and tireless devotion to family and country. Nothing has made me prouder than to follow in your footsteps, so many steps along the way. I love you. I've talked a lot throughout this campaign about the importance of service and how it's shaped my life and my approach to public office, and that all came from my parents. But this commitment to service, it is not unique to my family. It's ingrained in so many of Virginia's families. It is part of Virginia's story. Here in Virginia, this is where American democracy was born and where we are still working to perfect it today, where James Madison built the framework for our Constitution to protect us from tyranny, where Washington and Jefferson fought to establish a government of, by, and for the people. It is also the place where Barbara Johns, a 16-year-old student from Farmville, led a walkout of students that became part of the Brown versus the Board of Education case to integrate public schools. Barbara Johns never gave up, and she showed us that no matter your age, you can be part of the change and the progress that you want to see here in Virginia and across the nation. We are a nation founded on ideas, but we are a country where it is up to us, the citizens, who must put those ideas into action. It is us, the citizens, who work to make the change and progress and build upon the foundations laid out over so many years. And Virginia, now it is our time to lead. Tonight, it's hard not to reflect on the nearly 2-year journey that we've taken together on this campaign. And just a few minutes ago, Adam said to our daughters, "Your mom's gonna be the governor of Virginia." And I can guarantee those words have never been spoken in Virginia ever before. It's a big deal that the girls and the young women I have met along the campaign trail now know with certainty that they can achieve anything. It's a big deal to the women older than I am who forged the path in dreams, hard work, and in a belief that change and progress would be possible so that so many of us could follow in their footsteps in any career, in any role, in any challenge. The history Virginia is making tonight, it is yours. And I thank those who have come before me, and Mary Sue Terry in particular. She was the first woman elected statewide in Virginia. And because of her and the continued work of so many, there will be many more women to come for generations to come. So now that the campaign is over, the real work begins, because this was never about just winning an election. It was about what comes next. It's about the governing. Virginia voters made our choice tonight, and that choice was loud and clear. We are going to work to lower costs of renting, buying, or staying in your home. We are going to cut red tape and build homes families can actually afford. We're going to lower healthcare costs. We're going to crack down on predatory pharmaceutical practices and surprise billing. And we're going to produce more energy, and we are going to lower costs, and we're going to do it by producing more energy here in Virginia, and we're going to make sure that large utility users make sure that they pay their fair share. We're going to grow Virginia's economy by investing in apprenticeships and job training of the future. We're going to leverage AI and cutting-edge manufacturing to bring more capital investment into our Commonwealth. We are going to take politics out of our schools. We're going to make sure that teachers are well paid and well respected.
But you guys aren't taking me to 920, right?
And well respected. So that our students can focus on actually learning, and so that parents know that their children will succeed. And we are going to make our communities safer by providing the training, pay, and support that our law enforcement community needs and deserves.
Money Watch is your no-nonsense guide to taking control of your finances.
where I offer practical, real-world advice with no jargon and no judgment. I'm Jill Schlesinger. Listen to Money Watch wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity and formality and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who is a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you? Oh, come on. Join me on the takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7.
Go to the ends of the earth.
A great adventure together.
Come on in. And reach for the stars.
We'll hit the heights.
Bingo.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
Tonight, stream live Election Day coverage on CBS News 24/7 with team coverage of key races from coast to coast. America Decides, Election 25. Tonight, starting at 9 Eastern on CBS News 24/7.
This case, the murderer's still on the street.
It's like a screenplay, something straight out of Hollywood.
But it's not fiction. It's 48 hours.
Eyes of a criminal.
This that they're dead.
The defendant over there, Alex Murdoch, opened fire. Pow, pow.
Investigators say human remains found this week.
1997, 4 families shattered when their daughters disappeared.
Psychopaths are without guilt and they are without remorse.
The mystery of what happened would haunt investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Why did you buy that sledgehammer? You gonna do some home improvement or were you buying a murder weapon?
When you hear the name Gabby Petito, what comes to mind?
Would Gabby Petito still be alive today if the case had been handled differently?
He pointed a gun to me and said, "This is the day you die," and he shot me.
You're talking here about a very messy crime, and yet there's no physical evidence that connects him to the scene.
I'm an innocent man, and I hope the whole world can see it now.
A suspect is under arrest for the quadruple murder of 4 Idaho college students.
Like a John Grisham novel come to life.
A gripping true crime original. 48 hours, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Celebrity chef Guy Fieri, rock star Sammy Hagar, and the $1 Million Tequila Heist.
There's got to be a movie here.
Plus,
you're the director directing yourself.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's making me nuts.
On set of Spinal Tap with Rob Reiner, 60 Minutes.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
This is a CBS News election special.
New York is not for sale.
America's largest city chooses a new mayor.
This is the most important election I have ever been involved in. Not even close.
Tonight, we sent a message.
2 key states will elect a new governor.
Are you ready to fight hard for our future?
How about we elect the Jersey guy?
And a California vote that could shift the balance of power in Congress.
They poked the bear, and the bear is poking back, and we're going to get out there and win.
CBS News, America Decides. Election 2025 starts now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Tonight, we are tracking some very big races. Voters are choosing their next governors in Virginia and New Jersey. And in New York City, voters will elect a new mayor, while Californians will decide whether to redistrict House seats to counteract Republican-led redistricting efforts in Texas and elsewhere. Those races will give us insight into what Americans are thinking and possibly hold significant implications for the direction of our country politically, and give us some hints about what may occur in next year's midterm elections. The Democratic Party, as you well know, has been searching for an identity since losing to President Trump last year. One question tonight: will it embrace centrism, democratic socialism, or some complicated combination of both, depending on the locale? Another question: can Republicans get voters to turn out en masse when President Trump is not on the ballot? We have a great team of correspondents here with me at the desk to explain what tonight's results all mean in granular form. And we have correspondents in Virginia, New Jersey, New York City, and California. Let's get, without any more delay, to the latest results, starting with New York City, where the polls just closed and the current CBS News poll is lean Democrat for Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee. You see the lead he has with early returns in, about 36% of the vote in, over Andrew Cuomo, running as an independent because he lost the Democratic primary. Curtis Lee with the Republican nominee at 8%. Let's now go to New Jersey, the governor's race there. CBS News characterizes that as lean Democratic, with Mikey Sherrill, the Democratic nominee, you can see, with a somewhat sizable lead over the Republican nominee, Jack Ciattarelli, with 41% of the vote in. We already have a call in Virginia with the governor's race there, where Abigail Spanberger is the projected winner, according to CBS News projections, over the lieutenant governor and Republican nominee, Winsome Earl Sears. There was a video clue about that in our opening montage when you saw Abigail Spanberger at a podium, and it read in front, Governor-elect. So, Abigail Spanberger, according to our projections, the winner in Virginia. What you see there, Burbank, California. Live shot of voters online to cast their ballots. And the question under Proposition 50, which is seeking voters' consent for the state legislature to redraw the congressional maps in California. Democrats there hope as many as 5 seats could be shifted in the Democratic Party's direction if voters there give them that permission. I want to take a deeper look at that New York City mayor's race. Our Ed O'Keefe is at Mamdani headquarters in Brooklyn. Ed, tell us what you see and what you hear.
Major, good evening. There's still a little bit of ways from letting in most of the 3,000 or so supporters expected to fill this music venue in the heart of Brooklyn. Zohran Mamdani, a 34-year-old New York State Assemblyman, only in elective politics over the last 6 years, about this time last year announced that he would be running for mayor and was not registering in the polls. But something picked up over the start of the year into the spring as he kept talking relentlessly about the fact that this city, in his view, is too expensive for most people to live in, that they're having to look for rental properties across the river in New Jersey instead of staying here in the city that they love. He ultimately prevailed in a primary over the summer, beating the former governor Andrew Cuomo, someone that at the beginning of the year many thought could have been a relentless and pretty formidable candidate and ultimately mayor of the largest city in the country. But given the sexual harassment scandals he faced, and given the fact that Mamdani's upstart campaign, with a relentless focus as well on social media and attacking Cuomo and his record, has ultimately tonight come out as the leader, at least so far. He is expected to speak here in the next 2 hours or so if things go well for him. And it's going to raise a lot of questions about whether he's equipped to lead a city that requires cooperation with more than 50 members of the New York City Council and a state legislature up in Albany that will be looking to see whether he can get over 50% of the vote tonight and some sense of a mandate from this city to start enacting the policies he promised. Things like free public busing, free child care, rent control for many of the city's rent-stabilized apartments, and other changes, including a change in how policing is conducted in this city, with more of an emphasis on mental health and helping the homeless find their way instead of sending the NYPD in to do it. There have also, of course, been criticisms of his stance on the situation in the Middle East. The criticism of the state of Israel, especially considered by many critics to be anti-Semitic. But in talking to his supporters and in other voters here in the city this week, including Jewish voters, who said, we may disagree on that issue. We agree that this city is too expensive and that we need a fresh face, and they believe Mamdani could be the one to do it. If there are lessons for Democrats to be learned in the coming days from this, with all the other victories that they may be on the verge of tonight, Major, it'll probably be that relentless focus on dollars and cents. What have our polls shown us throughout the last several weeks? The president's approval on the issue of economy is slipping because voters don't think he's sufficiently addressing the issue of inflation. Well, what has this guy done here in New York but talk about affordability day and night across any program or platform that invites him to do so? That might be the lesson Democrats might want to take from what we see here tonight. We are expecting a handful of his most prominent supporters, people like the New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, other city leaders who've come around to his way of politicking to be here tonight, and the 3,000 or so that will fill this room, many of them the volunteers who've been knocking on doors. I met a guy yesterday, a 25-year-old from North Brooklyn, close to where we are here, who said, my neighborhood's locked up. We met him on the Upper West Side. He said, if he wants to freeze my rent, that means he has my back. I want to have his back. That kind of commitment we've seen in the streets of the city for Zohran Mamdani. We hope to hear from him in the coming hours. Major.
And when we do hear from him, and possibly before, we'll be back to you in Brooklyn. Ed O'Keefe, thank you so very much. I want to go now to CBS News Elections and Surveys Director Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, what are you seeing in the 5 boroughs of New York?
Major, welcome to the neighborhood. By which I mean,
I love it.
Okay, our crack all-world data team has put together a New York map, neighborhood by neighborhood, of where the votes are. And what you're going to see is in blue here, these are places, and this is advanced vote, because that's what the boroughs will count first. That's why we can make this a lean Mamdani at the moment, okay? These blue areas, I'm going to start by zooming in on Brooklyn here. These are places that all in the advanced vote are, at this moment, going for Mamdani, okay? So you see around Prospect Park, okay, around, downtown Brooklyn, all these places here. But also, if you look up in Manhattan, and this is important because in the primary, he did well, especially in lower Manhattan and then up in the north part of Manhattan, up here around Morningside Heights, et cetera, all going for Mamdani, and then in these parts of Astoria, Queens. What that tells you is that in some sense, at least in the advance vote, Mamdani is sort of replicating some of what he got in the primary, and that might bode well for him. Having said that, there are a lot of very traditional Democratic voters who might vote on Election Day that could help Cuomo. And the other part of this is we're going to be watching, after the Trump endorsement, do voters vote for move from Sliwa to Cuomo, which could shift things around, right? So those are your neighborhoods. Now, the other places I want to take you, do a little whip around here. I'm going to show you Virginia, because what's happened in Virginia is interesting for Democrats, okay? I'm going to show you that what we've got is a case in which, I'm going to pull up the governors here, Virginia. We got a case in which Democrats had to do well in places where Democrats need to do well in any election. So the suburbs of Northern Virginia here tell a story, and that is that Abigail Spanberger did well, in fact, better in places like Loudoun County. And I'm going to very quickly compare this to when Terry McAuliffe lost 4 years ago, better than McAuliffe. In Fairfax, another key county for Democrats, better than McAuliffe. What does that tell you? It tells you that compared to last time, Democrats were able to turn out their base, move a lot of those suburban voters, and then finally, I'm going to take you out to New Jersey, because what's going on in New Jersey is interesting, because what we got is a case in which the Democrats have to replicate that. They have to do well in the suburbs. So far, this is leaning Cheryl because they are doing that, at least in the areas where she used to represent or does represent in Congress, right? Up here in northern New Jersey. But I'm going to be watching these areas really closely, because this part of the state, and we'll come back to this again and again tonight, these are places where Democrats have to get a lot of turnout, and they'll look for that as a measure of their enthusiasm. Again, a lot of advance vote here. Could Chitterley catch up? He could in places like Monmouth and Ocean County where he's doing well, but this is going to be the key up here in North Jersey. That's why it's lean Cheryl, and that's the latest, Major.
And Anthony, sticking with New Jersey for a moment, we have a lean Cheryl. That's Mikey Sherrill, the Democratic nominee designation for this race. Why not likely, or why not call it? What are we still waiting to see? What is still in our modeling not clear enough to take it to another level beyond lean?
Right now, this is the latest CBS News model estimate. And we always say here, we show our work, right? This is what we get at the data desk. What I'm going to show you here is that the range of the estimate for Cheryl, which could be pretty high, also overlaps with the range of the estimate for Chitterelli. You see that overlap in there between the red and the blue? That means that our models haven't separated enough to make it likely or even a projection yet. This race is not over. Having said that, you see how much more blue there is up here and how much more red there is down here. So that's why it's a lean, Cheryl, but that's what our model, by model what I mean is looking at all the votes in so far across all the counties, merging that with the exit poll. We've been talking to voters all day, putting that all together and looking at it across the state. That's what you get for the estimate. That's what we do at the data desk. And that's why we show that to everybody. As we see it, you see it, Major.
That is our approach. When we see it, you see it, and we explain how we get from one place to another. Anthony Salvanto just did that. He will do that again, as warranted, throughout the evening. Anthony, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir. Thank you. CBS News congressional correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns at a place I also know well, the Exit Poll Board. It's great to have you here. Caitlin, what do we know about tonight?
Well, as Anthony said, we've been talking to voters all day, not just today, but also as they cast their ballots early. So we get a big picture, a comprehensive look at not only who voters are voting for, but how they're feeling about their vote. And let's take a look at New York, because we knew going into this, Mamdani was leading in the polls. This is no surprise what we're seeing today. But look at this. We're starting to get a picture of what his coalition looks like. You see him leading among liberal voters, among voters under 30, not only just young voters, but voters under 30, key demographic here, college grads and renters. This is a core demographic for Mamdani, because if you've been paying attention to this race in just the littlest bit of form, you know that his stance on the rent is just too high in New York has been fueling his campaign. And take a look at this, Major. For those who say the cost of living is the most important issue, 63%, they are voting for Mamdani here. Look at that lead. This is what he has been campaigning on day in and day out, that it's too high, the city is unaffordable. And Major, it's fascinating because everybody knows New York is expensive. I lived there for 7 years. I know it firsthand. The average rate for a studio apartment in New York, $3,200. That's insane. It also goes to show that campaigns don't have to be complicated. Talk to voters about what they care about. Make it accessible. I think that is what people may be able to take away from this campaign. It's the economy. It's things that people have to pay for every day, things that they're looking at. Rent, at least in New York, is a key issue.
Caitlin, I will take that rent reference and raise you by 2 bedrooms. So a 2-bedroom, average rental cost per month in New York, $5,471.
Unbelievable.
That's a real thing. Robert Costa, our chief Washington analyst. It's great to have you here.
Great to be here with all of you.
Tell us who's watching, thematically, what you're looking for tonight and what early results might be pointing toward.
Well, if you look at Caitlin's reporting just there, you're seeing a lot of talk about Mamdani's message, and that is certainly a central part of the story, talking about affordability. But let's step back for a brief moment. 10 years ago right now, what was going on in America? Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont was launching a presidential campaign in 2015. Nobody, it seemed, in the Democratic Party thought he had much of a shot. He was talking about democratic socialism. He was talking about health care for everybody. He was an outlier in the party. But his campaigns in 2016 and 2020 have laid the foundation for this new generation of Democratic leaders who use the label Democratic Socialist to rise. And it's not just Representative Ocasio-Cortez. It's now Zohran Mamdani on the brink of winning the mayorship of New York City, one of the most powerful cities in the world. And he's bringing a new ideology into the Democratic Party. And I bet we're going to spend much of the next year asking Democratic candidates and Democratic leaders, how do you reckon with it? Are you with Mamdani maybe just on the affordability issue, or are you with him more on his core political philosophy, which is really to have the state have more of a role in Americans' life? And to talk about the young voters, such an interesting stat Caitlin brought up. You sense when you're in New York City, and I covered Mamdani's campaign, the grievance among people in their 20s. And it reminds me of the Trump voter grievance years ago. They're angry at a system they believe has failed them.
And Bob, you've latched onto something that's really important, because when the Mamdani campaign was first gaining traction, one of the ways it did that was social media videos shot of him going into the boroughs where the Trump vote jumped considerably in 2024 and talking to Trump voters about what they were angry about, listening to them and then responding in kind. And I asked Bernie Sanders, who you just name-checked on the takeout earlier this week, yesterday as a matter of fact, can you explain the Trump Mamdani voter? He said, of course I can. They're aggravated by the same thing, and they've given Trump 9 months, and they're not satisfied. They're looking for someone who will address this core issue of, can I afford to live here the way I would like to live here?
And you're seeing a new generation rise. Sanders is now in his 80s. And so you wondered who was going to take that baton on the left. And it's going to be a complicated issue for Senator Schumer of New York, Representative Jeffries, the two leaders of the Democrats in Congress. They have built a Democratic Party poised for 2026 that's much more centrist in its approach. And now Mamdani's taking a tough line when it comes to foreign policy, his position on Israel and Gaza. He's been very critical of the Israeli government. And you see Mamdani now telling the Democratic leaders, I don't care where you've been on all of these issues, economics, healthcare, or foreign policy. I'm taking it in a new direction. That's a challenge not only to President Trump, but to his own party. I
want to bring in senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang. The White House has basically said Mamdani, if he wins and becomes the next mayor of New York City, is the face of the Democratic Party, point one. Point two, and will be someone that this president will willfully withhold federal funds from in order to starve his mayoral administration.
The president himself said that on 60 Minutes when he did an interview with Norah O'Donnell. He said, if Mamdani wins, it's going to be really hard for me to give federal dollars to New York City, my first home. And so the president's trying to signal that it's not just a matter of politics at stake. It is real life here because money is on the line. Now, of course, it's Congress that has that control of the money and where it's distributed. But you could say that of tariffs as well. You could say that of many things that ultimately the president has a huge say in because of the way the Congress is structured right now. But you're right. The president is going to great lengths to make Mamdani the new face of the Democratic Party, which is precisely why Democratic leaders are very resistant, and some have not even endorsed him.
As today, the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, said, I voted, and I look forward to working with the next mayor of New York City. Right. What? not a word. And Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, said, yes, I support the Democratic nominee for mayor.
Very late in the game.
And very arm's length almost about, yes, Caitlin, very quickly.
Well, I was just going to say, I think Democrats are also going to want to point to Virginia when they're looking at this. And that's why, as you mentioned in the open, this is a complicated electorate and messages to be taken out. Absolutely, you're looking at New York. But I think a lot of Democrats I've been talking to are saying, well, look at what we put up in Virginia. Yeah. A more moderate candidate.
For sure.
Obviously, the Republican had some flaws there. But Democrats have been arguing you have to play a candidate well in the place that they represent.
Exactly.
And I think that's what we're seeing today.
Caitlin Huey-Burns, Weijia Jiang, Robert Costa, stay here. We have a lot to talk about.
We're staying, Major.
We got a lot to work on tonight.
We're settling it in.
Fun fact, folks. Lots of Americans got a chance to vote, but not every state tonight has an elect. In fact, so many wannabe voters in Kentucky were upset that polling places were closed, so much so that Secretary of State had to respond, quote, we're getting calls about polls being closed. They are closed because we do not have elections today. Kentucky votes next year. You cannot vote today in Kentucky for the mayor of New York City or the governor of Virginia. Sorry. I love that. That's a fun fact for today, kids. That's a fun fact. Coming up, we will take you to Virginia, where Abigail Spanberger just addressed the crowd. You are watching CBS News, America Decides Election 2025.
The all-new CBS Evening News.
Lay is facing up to $1 million in tariff payments this year alone.
Zhou-Ling, is Lay going to be able to keep her workers under these conditions?
We don't have the same options as large businesses.
Can your business survive this?
If this is the end of my American dream, I'm going to go down swinging.
Sunday morning, curtain going up on the new season. Jennifer Lopez's new movie, Keanu Reeves on Broadway, and more. Listen for the trumpet.
Live now.
Here we go.
The ultimate tradition continues.
From what I've seen, it's like chaos.
America's #1 news program is now a free streaming channel with full episodes anytime.
Hey, let's go. 60 minutes. Is this what you want?
You're willing to talk about anything. I'm open to all of it.
The hardest hitting interviews.
The former president is known to watch 60 Minutes. If he was watching, what would you want to say to him?
Here, Bill, look at this.
The most influential people.
Who's the best coach in college football?
Let me see a mirror so I can look at it.
Are you a billionaire yet?
None of your business. Ain't you trying to get me robbed?
Exclusive investigations.
Am I getting a real look at what life is like in here today? Absolutely not.
Do you think people visiting know that these were looted?
For stories that impact our lives, 60 Minutes demands answers.
To those holding American hostages, you say what?
So many American officials are being targeted. Why is it not a bigger issue?
What is the most important takeaway for our audience?
What is your role in all of this?
How big of a problem is doping? Where was the military?
Why are people suspicious?
That sounds like a problem.
How is this possible?
Oh, come on.
Whoa.
Wow.
What is going on?
I'm Scott Pelley.
I'm John Worth.
I'm Leslie Stahl.
I'm Bill Whitaker.
I'm Sharon Alfonsi. I'm Cecilia Vega.
I'm Anderson Cooper.
This is 60 Minutes.
The CBS News original.
Showtime, baby.
It's time for 60 Minutes. Watch anytime.
To be moderator of Face the Nation means bringing the most powerful stakeholders to the table to become better informed.
When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives?
Ready?
Yeah. You ready?
And 1, 2, 3.
I can see clearly now.
Look at his outfit. Amazing. Give me some love, baby.
We got a toy. Look at this.
Oh, no!
Time for another quick meal you can make any night of the week. We've got tips to save on clothes, tech, and more.
How I got here is nothing short of like a miracle.
Talent.
Talent.
It's gonna be alright.
It's a bright, bright, bright way to start your day.
See you.
On CBS Mornings.
The CBS Evening News, not like anything else on TV.
If people are watching this, what do you want to tell them?
We need help.
When your husband had a heart attack, if you had to go to the next closest hospital, how long would that take?
Over a half an hour.
The CBS Evening News.
Welcome back. It's election night, so let's do what's most important. Let's check in on the latest results. New Jersey governor, we have shifted that to likely Democrat, meaning likely Democratic victory for Mikey Sherrill, the Democratic nominee. You see she has a 56.9% to 42.5% lead over Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican nominee, with 60% of the vote in. In Virginia, as mentioned earlier, CBS News has projected the winner to be Democratic nominee, former Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, over the Republican nominee, sitting Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears. CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian is at Spanberger's campaign headquarters in Richmond, where she just addressed the crowd. Nicole.
Yeah, that's right, and still a very celebratory atmosphere here at Spanberger headquarters after they were addressed by the now governor-elect Abigail Spanberger. In fact, we saw them change the signage on the podium just before she took to the stage, where she thanked her supporters and called it an honor of a lifetime to become Virginia's 75th governor. Take a listen to what she told the crowd.
We sent a message to every corner of the Commonwealth, a message to our neighbors and our fellow Americans across the country. We sent a message to the whole world that in 2025, Virginia chose pragmatism over partisanship. We chose our Commonwealth over chaos.
And that really was not only Spanberger's victory message, but really part of her her closing argument to voters that she wanted to turn the page on what was happening in Washington. She really tried to make this a referendum on the president's agenda with respect to the DOJ cuts, with respect to the ongoing government shutdown, when she referenced trying to get the chaos out of Washington. So that is the message that Spanberger sent not only to her supporters here tonight, but again to voters in these closing days. Now, I do want to point out another key race that we are following is the Attorney General race, which still hasn't officially been called, but which CBS News is currently rating lean Democrat, and that is the race between Jay Jones, the Democratic candidate for Attorney General, and the current incumbent Republican Attorney General Jason Miyares. Now, what is notable about this is that there was some question about whether there would be some split ticket voting, whether if Spanberger got elected, perhaps maybe people would split their ticket and support Jason Miyares, precisely because there was a big text messaging scandal involving Jay Jones, the Democratic candidate, where he sent these violent text messages back in 2022, in essence fantasizing about killing a Republican lawmaker here in the Commonwealth. Republicans, including Miyares, argued that that was disqualifying. Even the president and vice president called on Jones to resign or, stop running his campaign. That did not happen, and now it appears Jones could be poised to join Spanberger as the next Attorney General. If this race continues going his way, we will see how those numbers bear out, but it certainly is a change of fortune for the Democratic candidate for Attorney General.
Nicole Killian, I'm so glad you brought attention to that Attorney General's race. It is one we will watch very closely as the numbers come in throughout the evening. Thank you very much coming to us from Richmond. We can now project New Jersey governor. CBS News projection, Mikey Sherrill, the Democratic nominee, the projected winner over Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican nominee, three-time candidate for governor in New Jersey. Now it appears, according to our projection, Jack Ciattarelli will lose for the third consecutive time seeking the governorship. Mikey Sherrill, member of Congress, has won the New Jersey governor's race, according to CBS News projections. I want to go to CBS News Elections and Surveys Director Anthony Salvanto, who explains how we got there. Anthony.
Hey there, Major. Here's how we do it. I always say these calls are about patterns. Well, I'm going to show you some patterns, okay? In county after county, Mike Sherrill is hitting, or in some cases even exceeding, the targets that a Democrat would need to hit, right? So I'm going to show you a couple. One of them is Bergen. A lot of people would watch that. I'm going to show you past races, for example, the president's race, right? She exceeded Kamala Harris's percentage there. I'm going to show you a lot of people were watching a couple of these other counties in northern New Jersey, Passaic. Very closely watched, right? Right now, in percentage terms anyway, she is exceeding what Kamala Harris got because Donald Trump had flipped that county. So in place after place, and I'll show you this, Morris County, right? Again, another county that Donald Trump had flipped for the Republicans in the 2024 election, but here, Mikey Sherrill right now doing better than that. So you compare county after county, you get those patterns together. Also, a very strong showing in the early vote, I would add, for Mikey Sherrill, and that's going to add up to a win, and that's why I can call it, Major.
And Anthony, if you can, show us that range model you showed us a little while ago and how it differs now, which led to the call of projecting Mikey Sherrill as the winner?
You're going to see, you're going to see this. For viewers will perhaps remember a few moments ago, not long ago, when I showed you this range and I showed you that there was an overlap between the Sherrill range in blue and the red Ciattarelli range here, okay? What you see here is there's no more overlap. Okay, which is to say that the lowest that Sherrill can go in that estimate is still higher than the Ciattarelli. Again, sort of showing our work. That's what we do at the data desk. That's how we model all of this. And when those ranges separate, that means that Sherrill's range is going to exceed Ciattarelli's, and that's the call.
And that's how we do it. And I love, Anthony, every time you explain and show how we get from one place to another. We want to share that with you in the audience as we make those decisions and why we make them. CBS News congressional correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns at the exit poll big board. What do we know about New Jersey, and what did the exit polls tell us about this result we just projected.
Yeah, and part of the exit polls is also, as we're explaining the vote to viewers, we're trying to also explain how voters got here, what they were caring about when they cast their ballots, not only today, but early voting as well. We've been talking about all night how the economy, affordability has been such a big issue across all of these races we're covering, especially so in New Jersey. Take a look at this. Among those who say that they're falling behind financially and that was a big issue for them, Cheryl is leading among that group. In New Jersey specifically, the candidates were talking specifically about how high energy prices were. It shows that politics is national, but it's also local. State taxes were also high. So this group falling behind financially, Cheryl is leading among them. Also, take a look at this, Major. Non-white voters. She's getting 74% of non-white voters. That's fueling her lead. In New Jersey specifically, we were watching the Latino vote. Remember, in the last election, Donald Trump made serious gains among Latino voters. There's a significant Latino population in New Jersey. Cheryl is leading Chitterelli among Latino voters 2-1. By comparison, Biden won just 51% of Latino voters in the last election. So she is making gains there. We're also seeing leads among independent voters and suburban voters. I also want to show this graph. We've been talking all night, too, about how much is this a referendum against Trump. Cheryl was trying very closely to tie Chitterelli to Donald Trump in New Jersey. And we're seeing here that half of voters say that their vote today in New Jersey was, Trump had something to do with it, with most of that half saying that they were doing so to oppose Trump. 46% saying not a big factor here. So New Jersey is a blue state. Kamala Harris won it last time. They have currently a Democratic governor, and it looks like they're headed for a repeat there.
Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you so much. Jerika Duncan is in New Jersey at Republican Jack Chitterelli's campaign headquarters. Jerika.
Yeah, it's so interesting to hear the breakdown as to why, because anecdotally, when you talk to voters at the polls, you hear a little bit of what Caitlin just talked about in reference to national politics and then local politics. But the mood right here, people are skeptical. They don't want to say just yet that this race is not that of their candidates. I do see people looking at their phones. One woman, I thought she was trying to take a picture, and I looked and I said, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "We're not winning." So she was looking at her phone. This was about 30, 40 minutes ago, and seeing all that blue and some of the early projections. No one has come up to me or said anything. Folks are still sort of partying and drinking and whatnot. We haven't seen any sign of the Republican candidate, Jack Chitterelli. I have not heard from anyone inside his campaign. But what I can tell you is that on X, Mikey Sherrill posted, "It is the honor of my life to earn your trust to become the great state's 57th governor. I promise to listen, lead with courage, and never forget who I serve." Her motto throughout this thing was, "Let's land this thing," and that's exactly what it seems she has been able to do in the state of New Jersey. Major?
4 years ago, Jack Chitterelli came within 3 percentage points of incumbent Democratic Governor Phil Murphy. That may prove to be his high watermark in statewide politics in New Jersey. Jerika Duncan, thank you so very much. I want to bring in Republican political analyst Leslie Sanchez and political contributor and Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha. It's great to have you both with us. Leslie, you heard Caitlin Huey-Burns talk about the Latino vote in New Jersey. You have spent a career in analyzing, motivating, and coming to understand Latino voters across our country. What are your takeaways, if any, from what we're seeing in New Jersey?
I think this is going to be one area of commonality between myself and Chuck in terms of talking about Latino vote focused on economic issues, just like the rest of the voters that we saw today. Regardless of ethnicity and country of origin, they certainly felt and feel it in their pocketbook. What's distinctly important to mention when we talk about New Jersey, that's not an area that's going to have a Latino vote population and a history of Latino vote in the same way Texas will or California. Obviously, it's not a monolithic vote, but what you do see is the power of the purse string across different economic income in these families, and that's why I think it's important. You have a blue state,
Leslie,
lot of concern.
Yeah, Leslie. I need to jump in. I apologize. You have a projection. As you see, the projected winner, New York City Mayor, 34-year-old Zoran Mamdani, Democratic Socialist, the first Muslim mayor of New York City. The projected winner, you can see, with 60% of the vote in, 49.6%, the current vote total for Mamdani. Andrew Cuomo at 41.6%. I want to go back to your friend and mine, Elections and Surveys Director Anthony Salvanto. Break New York City down for us, Anthony.
Major, good to see you again. Look, here's what we got. New York City, these are the neighborhoods in New York City. You can see all the blue. Mamdani here is lit up in blue for the Democrat, right? That's your first part of the story. The other part of the story, though, is in the places that he won in the primary, he is doing well again. So I can pick him out. Williamsburg, right? The East Village, downtown Brooklyn, even up in Astoria, Queens. All those places where it's over and over again the same kind of patterns that we'd seen. Now, the thing for Cuomo has been, could he turn out the sort of the core Democratic base that had voted for him in past gubernatorial races, as well as some of the primaries? But those places, and I'm going to put you down here out towards the outer parts of Brooklyn, towards Sheepshead Bay, et cetera. Now, they did go for Cuomo, but there's not enough of them in the patterns here. And the other part of this, Major, is I'm going to take you out to Staten Island. Now, these are Republican neighborhoods. These are Republican areas. We wondered if maybe after the Trump endorsement, some of the slew of Republican voters might have shifted to Cuomo. That does appear to be the case because Cuomo did well in Staten Island. Having said that, just not enough, and especially with the strong turnout from Mamdani voters, and also on the early vote, all of that then adds up, neighborhood by neighborhood, to that Mamdani win, Major.
Anthony, we have about 40% of the vote out. Do we know where that vote is yet to come in from and how that might influence the numbers we currently see in front of us?
It's very evenly distributed. That's one of the reasons we can make the call, right? There's no big, giant pocket of vote out in one particular place. The other part of it is that from what we can see of the early versus election day vote turnout has been really strong, and that's another part of this, right? It's going to hit over 2 million. It might hit 2.2 million. For context, that's going to be very high for a mayor's race. And it also seems like Mamdani is keeping even or closer to even with that election day vote. So it wasn't just the early vote that he turned out well on. All of that is one of the reasons we can make that projection, Major.
Anthony Salvanto, thank you very much. We have many number crunchers here at CBS News. Robert Costa is one of them. He just sent me a note. Highest turnout for a mayor's race in New York City since 1969. I want to check back with our senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe, who was at Mamdani headquarters in Brooklyn. Ed.
Major, word of the victory has just reached this crowd. The theater is still filling up. They're anticipating at least 3,000 will be here tonight. But the cheers now signal that the word has spread, and the 34-year-old assemblyman, who, like we said earlier, was a nobody politically in this city a year ago, is now set to become the next mayor of New York after a relentless focus on affordability, after relentlessly attacking Andrew Cuomo's record and suggesting that he would be too easy on President Trump, after drawing the ire of the president, of course, a New York native who's threatening to withhold federal funding. Mamdani plowed ahead saying if that's what he wants to do, we'll see him in court. This is a campaign that has promised New Yorkers several controversial options: free public busing, a freeze on apartment rents and rent-stabilized properties, free child care, which is something we've seen Democrats campaign on in other parts of the country. But here's the thing. The mayor alone cannot do it. And one thing people in Albany, people in Washington will be watching closely is, will Mamdani tonight end this race with more than 50% of the vote? In a three-way race with a former governor and a Republican who was polling decently at one point, if he gets a mandate over 50%, that's the signal state legislators will need up in Albany to start raising taxes to pay for those free things. Going into next year's midterm elections in this state, where a handful of congressional seats and the governor's race will be closely watched and tip the scales for either party. That's what draws the focus on democratic socialist ideas of Mamdani and what brings some concern to some Democrats across the country. But, Major, here's the thing. He's been talking about how things are too expensive here. When I spoke with Mikey Sherrill over the weekend across the Hudson River in New Jersey, what did she say? Everything coming from Donald Trump in Washington has had the effect of raising costs. Either side of the river, the Democrat who won tonight was talking about costs and talking about how Donald Trump is keeping things expensive. There's consistency there. In governing in the next year, let's see which of those two winners tonight Democrats want to emulate more. We are expecting to hear from Mamdani most likely now in the next hour, given that he's been declared the winner. We'll see who joins him on stage. Will we see Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, this city's other famous Democratic socialist, arguably the one that paved the way for Mamdani to prevail tonight? Will he be joined by the state attorney general, Tish James, indicted by the Trump administration, Kathy Hochul, who's set to draw a pretty reputable Republican challenger in her closely watched race next year, and what other New York Democrats, Democratic socialists join him on stage? A big win tonight for sure. And telling Major how big this was, not only was he tailed today by CBS News and all the local reporters of this great city, but the Swedes were there, the Koreans were there. The world is watching this race, Major.
Ed O'Keefe, as you battle with the crowd noise, thank you very, very much for all of that information about Zohran Mamdani and his projected victory, the New York City mayor's race, and we will wait for him to arrive at the theater in Brooklyn. Lilia Luciano is at Andrew Cuomo's headquarters for more on that perspective. Lilia.
Well, Major, we also had crowd noise, cheering, glasses clinking, a lot of drinking, joy and hope up until a few seconds ago, really. I turned around to wonder why the room had gotten so quiet. I already knew that CBS News had called the race, but over here, the moment where the energy shifted and it was noticeable and people became more quiet, suspenseful, staring at those screens was when they saw that the AP had called it. I have heard people say, well, you can't trust those numbers. You can't trust the count until it's over. Every vote counts, and it's over until it's over. I heard a woman behind me. I asked her, what's your reaction now that it's being called? She said, I think I'm going to be sick. People here are on their phones. They're checking and refreshing. I have to say the signal is not great, but I think there's a little bit of denial and disbelief so far. Up until a few minutes ago, I heard from very enthusiastic voters who are supporting Cuomo, the voters that I didn't hear from throughout the day today, as we talked about earlier. I had heard from Cuomo voters who said, I'm not necessarily for him, but I'm voting against Mamdani. The ones I've met here, the people who were standing in line outside up until 8:30 that they were allowed to come in, were saying, no, he is a stellar candidate. A woman told me that she had been a Bernie Sanders supporter and voter, and that she has been, this time around, for the first time in her life, volunteering for Andrew Cuomo, that she was energized by his campaign. She called it a life or death campaign. I've heard from other voters who said that they didn't trust what Mamdani was promising, that they couldn't believe that he could carry out the campaign promises, and that's why, if they don't have that kind of trust, they couldn't trust in the candidate himself, and then they turned for Cuomo. I met a woman who was reminiscing over the pandemic and said that he was the voice of peace in her home while she was unemployed, that she trusts that he was a great governor, in her words, and that that would prepare him to be an excellent mayor this time around. I'm hearing people yelling. I'm hearing people heckling. There are people who have been talking about Sliwa, and they're blaming him for this upset. They're saying, I'm hearing some words here that I don't want to repeat, but people seem to be very upset, not just about Mamdani, but blaming Sliwa, the Republican candidate. I talked to a Republican woman outside who says, I've always voted Republican. I was afraid of the Trump endorsement because that would have activated more Mamdani voters. And it sounds like all of those together brought us to this moment where the energy has most certainly shifted in this room. Major.
A little bit of disbelief, a little bit of anger, and maybe some accumulated disbelief that this race has turned the way it has, and that Curtis Sliwa did not bow out, as many pressured him to do inside and outside the Republican Party. That may or might not have made a difference, but we are where we are. Lilia Luciano at Cuomo headquarters in New York City. Thank you so very much. CBS News congressional correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns, also at the exit poll board. Again, how did it happen?
I am so glad that you asked whether Curtis Sliwa would have made a difference in this race, because we have some data to look at. You would be forgiven if you didn't realize this was a three-way race. We've been talking about Mamdani. We've been talking about Cuomo. We haven't really talked much about the Republican Curtis Sliwa. He's run before. He was running again, refused to bow out of the race. And we're seeing in our exit polling, Major, that half of his voters ended up voting for, said that they would have voted for Cuomo if, it's a big if this would have been a two-person race. That's what they're saying in that hypothetical. So the question is, Would that have made a difference in this race? And take a look at this. Look how close this is. Mamani still would have pulled this out in a hypothetical situation, but it is a much closer race had Sliwa not been in this race or had his voters moved over to Cuomo in the actual race. But we don't operate in hypotheticals. The race is what it is. It was what it was. And it was significant that President Trump did not endorse the Republican in this race. He endorsed Andrew Cuomo, kind of knowing that these factors would be at play. So again, the race is what it is, but we're seeing that it could have made a little bit of a difference, but still not enough. Mamdani's still leading.
Caitlin Huey-Burns, we ask lots of questions here on election night, and we try to answer them as best we can, and Caitlin had the answer to the question we just asked ourselves. Would it have made a difference? Slightly, but not a decisive one. Caitlin, thank you so very much. We will be right back. We got a lot more to do tonight. Stay with us. You're watching CBS News, America Decides Election 2025.
No matter how you start your day, one thing is very clear.
CBS Mornings is the best way to start your day.
You better work!
Clearly.
We welcome you to CBS Mornings. I'm Gail King.
I'm Tony Nicole. I'm Nate Burleson.
Let's go!
CBS Mornings is clearly smart.
Is this a different way of doing philanthropy?
Rent at an affordable level and invest.
Could this change the way that we think about vaccines?
CBS Mornings is clearly fun. Don't you bow to your emperor.
She said,
hello, Miss Badass. We go from one badass to another.
Good morning!
It's like, yes, it's finally happening.
You meet the nicest people in our progressive green room. Guess who's here?
Jeff! CBS Mornings is clearly uplifting.
I get goosebumps when I think about this game.
Hey. It just warms your heart. I feel alive. You will too.
We'll see you
on CBS Mornings.
Weekdays at 7. Have a sunshiny day.
Fire away, you know me, man.
UFC's no-holds-barred leader. It's time for Dana White.
Yeah, I get it. We're on 60 Minutes.
Wow. When you need your sports center now,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
This is CBS.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go, with the 48 Hours podcast. Real crimes, real lives.
Like a John Grisham novel come to life.
Real justice.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Listen to 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts.
The all-new CBS Evening News.
Lay is facing up to $1 million in tariff payments this year alone.
Zhou-Ling, is Lay going to be able to keep her workers under these conditions?
We don't have the same options as large businesses.
Can your business survive this?
If this is the end of my American dream, I'm going to go down swinging.
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity, informality, and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who is a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you?
Oh, come on.
Join me on the takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7.
We have a mayor-elect. Obviously, I wish him good luck because if he does well, we do well.
Welcome back to CBS News, America Decides Election 2025. I'm Major Garrett. That was Curtis Sliwa, the Republican nominee for mayor in New York City, wishing the mayor-elect, Zohran Mamdani, well on behalf of all New Yorkers. And one of the reasons he did that, not the only reason, but one of them, CBS News can now project the three big races we're tracking, where polls have already closed. As I just said, the New York City mayor's race, Zohran Mamdani, the projected winner, according to CBS News projections, with 83% of the vote in. You can see Mamdani just over 50%. Andrew Cuomo, son of Mario Cuomo, 41.3%. Curtis Lewa, who you just listened to, 7.3%. On to New Jersey, the governor's race, where CBS News, with 73% of the vote in, projects the winner, Democratic nominee and member of Congress, Mikey Sherrill, over the Republican nominee and three-time candidate for governor, representing Republicans in New Jersey, Jack Ciattarelli, 43% to 56.4%. And in Virginia, with 85% of the vote in, CBS News projects the winner, Democratic nominee, former member of Congress, Abigail Spanberger, over the lieutenant governor and Republican nominee, Winsome Earl Sears, 56.3% to 43.5%. And Virginia's attorney general race, we have a projected winner, and this would fall, I think, into the category of surprise. Jay Jones, the Democratic nominee, the CBS News projected winner, with 84% of the vote in, over the incumbent Republican, Jason Miyares, 51.8% to 47.8%. Why does this fall into the slight surprise category? Because Jay Jones, for weeks, was bogged down in a lengthy scandal, and I think that's a fair word to describe it, about text messages he sent privately some 3 years ago, suggesting he was in favor of gun violence against a Republican in the Virginia legislature. Those text messages were all over the Virginia attorney general race for weeks. They were part of the conversation on the campaign trail. They were part of advertising run not just by Jason Miyares, but by Winston Earl Sears in the governor's race, trying to add one scandal to the other. And in the end, not only did Abigail Spanberger win comfortably in the gubernatorial race, but now, according to CBS News projections, Jay Jones, who was dealing with this for weeks, overcoming that and an incumbent Republican attorney general. Robert Costa with me, Weijia Jiang with me, Caitlin Huey-Burns with me. Robert, let me start with you.
Well, quickly on Spanberger, she stuck by the Democrats despite all the scandal.
Yes.
And she was under pressure to break. She held because she was being told behind the scenes, based on my reporting.
Those text messages were disqualifying, and she had to dump him, and she didn't.
And she was told, if you dump him, you're going to lose some of the core Democratic voters you need if this gets close. New York City, major moment. I've just been texting with members of the Trump administration, sources close to President Trump. Mm-hmm. The election's over, but the political war just begins.
Yep.
The president, I'm told, is thinking about how he's going to approach New York City. Now, he has sent the National Guard to California. He has sent it to other states. Could New York be the next front? I have been asking my sources close to the president. The answer across the board, yes. President Trump focused tonight on New York City. And for the Democratic Party, you have now had a Democratic socialist, 34 years old, win the mayor's race in New York City. And what's so important about how he ran this race, he didn't dance around it. He has a mandate for what he's talking about. And it goes beyond free busing. It goes beyond trying to make sure there's child care for those in kindergarten and for others who are dealing with child care issues. He is making a wholesale argument to business leaders in New York. The old way is over. A new order is here. You are going to pay higher taxes. The state is going to have a bigger role. And while Democrats in Washington might want to run a Spanberger playbook in 2026, they're going to be asked questions about this high-profile Democratic socialist, Democratic mayor of New York.
Weijia Jiang, we are waiting for Mikey Sherrill, the projected winner in the New Jersey governor's race, to give her remarks this evening. But Abigail Spanberger in Virginia already has. And I noted she said she is all in favor of pragmatism. Not progressivism, pragmatism. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be part of the after-action Democratic conversation. Are we progressives? Are we pragmatists? Or are we pragmatic progressives? Or some combination of the two?
Well, you know, what's so fascinating to me is that for Mamdani, he actually stole President Trump's playbook in some ways and really zoomed in on such a simple message about the economy. And he used some of the tactics, too, because I remember looking at my phone, then all of a sudden this guy came out of nowhere and he was speaking directly to people and asking what it was that they cared about. And really, it was a moment for Democrats, as you point out, to reflect about who they are. And right now, there is still an identity crisis that the Trump administration and Republicans will try to capitalize on because they haven't figured out exactly as a party what they are going to do. So not only are we waiting for those remarks, Major, but I'm also waiting to hear from President Trump, who has so far tonight said nothing about any of these races.
I want to turn to Kelly O'Grady, who is often the most important person I turn to synthesize economic data, trend lines therein. Kelly, what do you see not only in the election results, but what led to them based on either consumer complaints, affordability issues, and economic performance overall?
I mean, every election, the economy seems to be top of mind. And you kind of look at what we're seeing in the headline stats and you compare that to how people are feeling. Headline-wise, the economy is doing well. The unemployment rate, it's at 4.3%, right? That's within a healthy band. Inflation is at 3%. It's not where the Fed wants it to be, but it's certainly off that high that we saw in summer 2022 of 9%. But Major, the reason you saw today is because this is a two-speed economy that we are living in. The labor market, okay, let's look at that again. We've seen the largest number of layoffs through September that we have seen since 2020. Think about that, since COVID. And then when you break down that headline number with prices and inflation, we're seeing some of the staples like beef, like meat, like coffee. It's double-digit price increases. And so, Major, I think the way to think about this is the share of wallet that those lower and middle income Americans are spending on those staples. It's really increasing, and that's why it hurts so much.
As always, you break it down so well. Kelly O'Grady, thank you so much. When we come back, we're expecting to hear from the projected winners of New Jersey's governor's race, Mikey Sherrill, and New York mayor's race, Zohran Mamdani. That's coming up in the next hour. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. You are watching CBS News coverage of America Decides, Election 2025.
Oh, wow. Look at this.
Let 60 Minutes take you on a private tour of the National Archives.
So there may be treasures like this buried in boxes.
Historical secrets from America's past.
So this is original from 1778?
When you need your sports in a snap,
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
On Face the Nation, you try to separate the noise from the news. You need to be able to have an actual conversation.
Do you believe this case could be solved?
Yes, I do.
What is your emergency?
I accidentally shot my wife.
Do you think it was accidental? I guess that's the million-dollar question.
It's not a violent crash.
No.
Whoa.
There's our connection.
Lady down.
I knew this was going to happen.
Did this look like an accident or something else?
Something entirely different.
I never would have guessed how this ended.
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Ready?
Yeah. You ready?
And 1, 2, 3. Hey!
I can see clearly now.
Look at his outfit. Amazing. Give me some love, baby.
We got a toy. Look at this.
Oh, no!
Time for another quick meal you can make any night of the week.
We've got tips to save on clothes, tech,
And more.
How I got here is nothing short of like a miracle.
Talent.
Talent.
It's gonna be alright.
It's a bright, bright, bright way to start your day.
See you.
On CBS Mornings.
What happens when the world's best journalists come together?
Write a prescription for the healing of America.
We're retired and this is our paradise. Now it's gone.
You get the stories of America every night. You get the all-new CBS Evening News, starting Monday.
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
Reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
Experience thought-provoking.
Something that's undeniable.
Ta-da! And truly original reporting.
I'm in on this.
There's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity and formality and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who is a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you?
Oh, come on.
Join me on The Takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7. This is CBS News. America Decides Election 2025. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Good evening, everyone. It is undoubtedly a big night for Democrats across the races that have been decided so far and projected so far, as you can see from our latest results. In New York City, the projected winner, according to CBS News projections, with 86% of the vote in, Zoran Mamdani, 50.5% over Andrew Cuomo at 41.4%. New Jersey governor with 79% of the vote in. CBS News projects the winner, Democratic nominee, member of Congress Mikey Sherrill. And in Virginia, with 86% of the vote in, CBS News projects the winner, Democratic nominee Abigail Spanberger. You see the results there, 56.6 to 43.2. We see Mikey Sherrill, the projected winner of the New Jersey governor's race, nearing the podium, at the podium. Let's listen in.
They always say we're loud, but man, with this vote, you guys just scream from the rooftops. And people around the country have heard you. I hear you too. This was a tough fight, and this is a tough state. But I know you, New Jersey, and I love you. I've fought for you. I've spoken with thousands of you over this last year. I know your struggles. I know your hopes. I know your dreams. So serving you is worth any tough fight I have to take on, and I am incredibly honored to be your next governor. When I was 18, I raised my hand and I swore to defend the Constitution. And that moment defines me. It taught me that leadership means carrying the weight of other people's hopes, standing firm when it's easier to bend, and always putting the common good above personal gain. And I know how hard it can be to serve in these times. And I just got a call from Jack Chittarelli, and I want to recognize him for stepping up. And all of you know, I love our history, and our state motto has always stuck with me. In 1777, New Jersey was one of the first states to choose a motto. Anybody? Liberty and prosperity. I'm going to get some more civics education going. We'll get that known by all. But it was a demand for freedom from oppression and a commitment to creating better opportunity and a better future. That idea has defined us for almost 250 years. We fought for liberty at the crossroads of the American Revolution, turning the tide for our young nation at the battles of Trenton and Princeton. We offered prosperity as we built the nation during the Industrial Revolution. We've been the cradle of scientific discovery, inventing everything from the light bulb to the laser. Liberty and prosperity. I've seen the genius in that motto over the last year, because both are essential in our democracy. And as the president is backing away from this ideal, cutting SNAP, ripping away health care, terminating Gateway, we here in New Jersey are bound to fight for a different future for our children. We see how clearly important liberty is. We know that no one in our great state is safe when our neighbors are targeted, ignoring the law and the Constitution. But prosperity is equally essential. Liberty alone is not enough if the government makes it impossible for you to feed your family, to get a good education, or to get a good job. So in this country, that shouldn't be too much to ask. But right now, all of it seems at risk. Governors have never mattered more. And in this state, I am determined to build prosperity for all of our citizens. And I've heard from thousands of you about what liberty and prosperity mean to you, what it's going to take for your family to thrive. So I hear you, Newark. I'm going to work with communities from the ground up so all of our neighbors thrive. I hear you, Sham, so I'm going to declare a state of emergency on day one to drive down your utility costs. I hear you, Westfield, so I'm going to make sure our kids are safe online and schools have the resources they need to address the mental health crisis. I hear you, Jersey City, so I'm going to hold government accountable, balancing individual liberty with collective responsibility, ensuring people are safe, healthy, educated, and free to pursue their dreams. I hear you, New Jersey. Good government doesn't just manage problems, it solves them. So I'm going to continue to listen and work with you to move our state forward, because I have learned so much as I've traveled our state. Our innovations, our businesses, our inventors and entrepreneurs have amazed me, but it's the people that have left the biggest mark, especially those who are fighting for prosperity for their entire communities. I was moved during my block walk in Trenton with Shanique as she spoke so passionately about the promise of her city and her neighbors despite the challenges. I love the group of young men from Monroe who've been hard at work on this campaign. They want a seat at the table, and they're ready to fight for their future. The little girls who come up to me to say that they're going to be a governor or they're going to be a president. It reminds me of my own belief that anything was possible. Akeem's team, who worked their butts off, knocked over 60,000 doors. Akeem told me these are not the kids who will succeed in Trump's vision of this country, but they will in mine. The men and women in labor. Union jobs at a time when our economy is set up to make it harder and harder for working people. You know what? They don't just fight for their brothers and sisters in labor. They fight for all of us. For working families everywhere, so everyone has a shot. So thank you. Thank you to each and every person here tonight and across the state who's worked hard over the last year. Thanks to the thousands of volunteers who made millions of calls, texts, and canvases, to everyone who's ready to stand and demand a better future for our kids and our families, to my running mate, Dr. Dale Caldwell. You've already served our state so well, and I'm proud to have you by my side as we embark upon this new chapter for New Jersey. To my team, who put together a campaign the likes of this state has never seen, and helped in our efforts to create a great future for New Jersey. And thanks to my family, who put up with missed soccer games, lacrosse games, football games, volleyball games, swim meets, and rugby games, all to put up with this, so thank you. And a special thanks to my husband, Jason, a hamster, numerous goldfish, 5 campaigns, an insurrection, and 2 impeachments, you have been a truly amazing partner. So thank you to everyone who's joined me in fighting for a better future. I know these are tough times. I know not everyone voted for me, but I'm working for everyone. Every single one of you. When we all do better, we all do better. So tomorrow begins a new day. And at each new day in New Jersey, the sun rises over the Statue of Liberty, a daily reminder of her promise. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. She declares that her lamp lights the path to the golden door. That golden door is New Jersey. It always has been. And that expectation is well deserved, especially after this election, where we chose, we're going to follow Lady Liberty's beacon. We're not going to give in to our darker impulses. Here in New Jersey, we know that this nation has not ever been, nor will it ever be, ruled by kings. We take oaths to a constitution, not a king. We've chosen liberty, the very foundation of democracy, and we've chosen prosperity necessary to create opportunity for all. So New Jersey, to quote the boss, the future is now. Roll up your sleeves, let your passion flow. The country we carry in our hearts is waiting. Thank you, New Jersey.
New Jersey Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill giving voice to what is undoubtedly a bounce-back moment for Democrats in New Jersey. What do I mean by that? Well, 4 years ago, Kamala Harris, as the Democratic nominee for president, underperformed Joe Biden by 400,000 votes. Tonight, Mikey Sherrill, the Democratic nominee for governor, wins easily, somewhat handily, somewhat surprisingly large, in a margin of victory over Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican nominee for governor. Weijia Jiang is with me, as with Robert Costa and Caitlin Huey-Burns. Weijia, we have a Truth Social post from President Trump regarding tonight's results.
We do, Major. It's the first time we have heard from the president since the Republican losses, and he is citing unnamed pollsters, saying, quote, Trump wasn't on the ballot and shutdown were the 2 reasons that Republicans lost elections tonight, which really falls in line with what I heard from Trump senior aides at the White House today, who said, look, off-cycle elections are what they are. We don't view this as a direct referendum on the president and his performance. They also suggested that perhaps Democrats were dragging out the shutdown because they're acknowledging that it is hurting Americans and could have harmed these races. But our exit polls, Major, tell a different story. In Virginia, when asked the question, was Trump a factor in your vote, 52% said yes. In New Jersey, same question, 51% said yes. In California, and we'll get to that.
We will.
We will. The answer was 58% yes, Trump was a factor. Now, in New York City, it was only 38% yes, 59% no. But whether he's directly on the ballot or not, he is there, right? Because people are thinking about his policies, especially I'm thinking about Virginia, which has a extremely high percentage of federal workers. So they have been directly impacted by Trump's policies, by DOJ, by this shutdown. And we don't know exactly how the Trump factor weighed in, but certainly, again, our polling shows that it did.
And what all of us know is, by design, President Trump is a relentless and regular force in American political life and conversation. So referendums come as they come, when ballot boxes are opened and people stand in line to cast their ballots. Robert, hold on just 1 second. Because this is a dynamic situation, We left Leslie Sanchez almost mid-sentence to go to a projection call for the New York mayor's race. I want to bring back Leslie Sanchez and political contributor and Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha. Chuck, we'll get you in a second, I promise. But Leslie, carry on.
Let's not overreach, though, on this New Jersey and Virginia election cycle. These are two states that traditionally vote blue. So while I agree with the president that the government shutdown is certainly something that played into this, and Democrats used it to their advantage in blue states, especially when it comes to turnout, for very fair economic reasons, to say just because the president wasn't on the ballot, those are two traditional states that consistently vote for the opposite party for several election cycles. So I think that's kind of a more important, bigger picture to take.
Yes, but Leslie, you know, after 2024, with the numbers I just mentioned about Kamala Harris's underperformance vis-a-vis Joe Biden, there was some sense Republicans had that they were making maybe some inroads in New Jersey, and this race might be a test case of that.
It's a test case, but look at all the different factors that come into it. I don't think it's a fair observation. I think when we get to midterms next year, is really going to be a stronger take, more candidates on the ballot, more issues, more economic reforms. And we're going to have a quick look at how this new type of leadership is going to affect. One thing we already know from New York is the exodus has started. We heard about real estate rates. People are looking at leaving the state because of the high taxes that they anticipate coming. So we're going to be able to test both Republicans and Democrats next election cycle very soon.
Chuck, the floor is yours.
I would push back on my good sister Leslie on two things. There's a Republican governor of Virginia right now. It ain't that blue. And also in New Jersey, just 4 years ago, Democrats only won by 2 points. And this is the first time in New Jersey's history of the last 65 years that a Democrat has been reelected after serving as the governor. What's going on here is affordability. I came on this network a year ago and said Donald Trump overperformed everywhere and beat Democrats. Tonight, it's the opposite. Democrats have won everywhere and overperformed everywhere, and it's about one issue. And it's ironically the same issue that Donald Trump got elected on, and it's affordability. My firm knocked on 100,000 Latino doors in New Jersey over the last 4 weeks, and every time we opened the door and talked to a voter in New Jersey, they talked about their electrical bill, the price of coffee, the price of ground meat. People are sick and tired of paying too much for everything in their lives, and this election tonight, the Democrats took advantage of.
And Chuck, to that point, I want to ask you this. Is there a danger for the Democratic Party writ large to overread tonight's election results? Because if it is about affordability, affordability is about who's ever in charge.
Absolutely.
Not the party.
And you're exactly right. What scares me the most is that Democrats are going to see what happened tonight and think we all got it figured out for a year from now. There's a lot that can happen between now and then. And I remind all my Democrats, celebrate tonight. It's a historic night. But tonight's not the same turnout you're going to see in 2026 in November. In these counties in Northern Virginia that jumped over 30 points performance for Democrats, you didn't have as many people voting there as you'll have voting there a year from now. This is not apples to apples. It's a different election, but it's still momentum and a good sign, but it's not the end-all, be-all.
Leslie, one other question for you. If you are a Republican advising President Trump right now, tonight, what do you tell him about the demeanor, the approach you take after these election results, and the remainder of however long this government shutdown lasts?
Look, the president has been talking about getting the Democrats on the right side of the issue when it comes to the government shutdown. He has pushed back. He talks about it consistently, and he's going to continue to put pressure on the Senate to get this done. He wants our workers going back to work. He wants our individuals paid. Again, I think the president has an agenda. He is talking about closing the border, making the economy stronger, strengthening small business, and we're going to see the after effect. These are two particular states, Virginia, that has a very large federal population, that skews the state. Excellent governor in Governor Youngkin, and my colleague is exactly right, but there were also 3 big losses under Governor Youngkin. He couldn't, he didn't win for the last presidential election and carry that over. It's a fluid time. Economy and economics matter.
Leslie Sanchez and Chuck Rocha, thank you very, very much. I want to bring in Free Press staff writer Olivia Reingold. She's at Mamdani headquarters. The Free Press, like CBS News, as you probably heard, owned by Paramount Skydance. Olivia, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? What's your take on this evening's results?
I mean, you can hear the music right now. The vibe is like a club. I mean, people are ecstatic. Jamal Bowman, he's kissing everyone on the cheek. People are saying, we did it, we did it. I spoke with one college student. She's 18 years old. She woke up at 4 a.m. this morning to go knock on doors. I asked her how many times she had canvassed for Zohran throughout this past year. She couldn't even name, all she could say is dozens.
And Olivia, as you've been covering this race, is the result, as we've seen it, the projection is that Mamdani's going to win. He may get over 50%. More surprising to you, or was this something in line with the expectations you had based on your reporting with voters throughout the 5 boroughs?
I'm just smiling because I don't know if that's news to this crowd here. This is a crowd that believes, they're celebrating. They believe this is a decisive win. To me, it completely lines up with what I've seen out there. I mean, you look at the ballot, Cuomo was obviously not the Democratic nominee. He was buried in the ballot, the far bottom corner there. So there was that element. It was hard to imagine how Cuomo could ever catch up to this grassroots energy here. People want to be here. People were waiting in line outside around the block just to be here.
It's like a dance club, and I'm sure Olivia Reingold knows a thing or two about very cool dance clubs in New York, as well as city politics and lots of other politics. Olivia, it's great to have you with us. We'll be back in a moment. You are watching and very much enjoying CBS News coverage of America Decides, Election 2025.
The all-new CBS Evening News.
Lay is facing up to $1 million in tariff payments this year alone.
Zhou-Ling, is Lay going to be able to keep her workers under these conditions?
We don't have the same options as large businesses.
Can your business survive this?
If this is the end of my American dream, I'm going to go down swinging.
Sunday morning, curtain going up on the new season. Jennifer Lopez's new movie, Keanu Reeves on Broadway, and more. Listen for the trumpet.
Live now.
Here we go.
The ultimate tradition continues.
From what I've seen, it's like chaos.
America's #1 news program is now a free streaming channel with full episodes anytime.
Hey, let's go.
60 minutes. Is this what you want?
You're willing to talk about anything. I'm open to all of it.
The hardest hitting interviews.
The former president is known to watch 60 Minutes. If he's watching, what would you want to say to him?
Here, Bill, look at this.
The most influential people.
Who's the best coach in college football?
Let me see a mirror so I can look at it.
Are you a billionaire yet?
None of your business. Ain't you trying to get me robbed?
Exclusive investigations.
Am I getting a real look at what life is like in here today? Absolutely not.
Do you think people visiting know that these were looted?
For stories that impact our lives, 60 Minutes demands answers.
To those holding American hostages, you say what?
So many American officials are being targeted. Why is it not a bigger issue?
What is the most important takeaway for our audience?
What is your role in all of this?
How big of a problem is doping?
Where was the military?
Why are people suspicious?
That sounds like a problem.
How is this possible?
Oh, come on.
Whoa.
Wow.
What is going on?
I'm Scott Pelley.
I'm John Worth.
I'm Leslie Stahl.
I'm Bill Whitaker.
I'm Sharon Alfonsi.
I'm Cecilia Vega.
I'm Anderson Cooper.
This is 60 Minutes.
The CBS News original.
Showtime, baby.
It's time for 60 Minutes. Watch anytime.
To be moderator of Face the Nation means bringing the most powerful stakeholders to the table to become better informed.
When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives?
Ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
And 1, 2, 3. Hey!
I can see clearly now.
Look at his outfit. Amazing. Give me some love, baby.
We got a toy. Look at this.
Oh, no! Time for another quick meal you can make any night of the week.
We've got tips to save on clothes, tech,
And more.
How I got here is nothing short of like a miracle.
Talent.
Talent.
It's a bright way to start your day.
See you.
On CBS Mornings.
The CBS Evening News, not like anything else on TV.
If people are watching this, what do you want to tell them?
We need help.
When your husband had a heart attack, if you had to go to the next closest hospital, how long would that take?
Over a half an hour.
The CBS Evening News.
The next and last stop is City Hall.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A social media video already turned out by the mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani. Just checking my notes, when he arrives at City Hall, Zohran Mamdani, the mayor-elect, will find a budget of $116 billion. The state budget for New York, according to my notes, $254 billion. City employees, City of New York, 306,000 in 2024. 47% of them teachers, 16% New York City Police Department. That's a big job. And Zohran Mamdani, as that social media video indicates, heading to City Hall to tackle it in the not-too-distant future. I want to go back to Caitlin Huey-Burns at the election exit poll desk and big screen to tell us what is on your mind. What do you know, Caitlin?
Well, Major, we've been talking all night about what this win by Mamdani means. Republicans are trying to make it a big deal. Democrats are trying to look at things that they like, maybe don't like, trying to focus on affordability. But take a look at this. This gives us a good picture about the electorate here. The share of voters who identify as Democrats, a vast majority are in New York City identify as Democrats. But compare that to New Jersey and Virginia, the other races we've been watching tonight. 36% in New Jersey identify as Democrats, 34% in Virginia. And this was really striking to me, Major. Those who identify as liberal voters in that, take a look. 46% in that New York City mayor's race say they identify as liberal voters compared to 33% in New Jersey, 31% in Virginia. So why this all matters, you know, Republicans are wasting no time. My phone is going off, painting every Democrat as a Mamdani Democrat. Right. But Democrats are going to look at this and say, this is a outsized vote in New York City. You know, New York City is the most concentrated, you know, that we've seen so far in Democratic votes. What was striking, too, more liberal than California, New York City is. And I know we're going to talk about California tonight. But you can also look at it as a way to look at how Democratic voters are feeling. If you're looking at a high concentration of Democratic voters, this is who they're voting for. Given these options, that's also something, a data point to look at.
Caitlin, brilliant stuff. We're going to talk about California right now because as a son of San Diego, I do not want to be the living, breathing embodiment of East Coast obsessiveness, okay? Robert Costa, you said a little while ago that Proposition 50 is the most important of all of the things to be decided tonight. It's being decided in California. Polls will close at 11 p.m. Eastern. By the way, we are expecting Zohran Mamdani, mayor-elect of New York City, to address his ecstatic crowd of gathered crowd in Brooklyn about 10:45 Eastern. So stay tuned for that. Robert.
What we saw tonight in New Jersey and in Virginia and in New York City, very important for American politics. You're seeing a through line of the Democrats across the board trying to win back the working voter in state after state, city after city that President Trump brought onto his side in 2016, 2020, and 2024. He really made inroads in a historic way with those voters. Democrats now trying to win them back, talking about affordability, talking about health care costs. But you're right. My conclusion as a reporter is the most important race tonight, if you're inside the Trump White House or you're inside the Capitol in the leadership offices, is Proposition 50 in California. I just sat down with Governor Gavin Newsom, the Democrat of California. He, if you really want to boil it down, is trying to get 5 additional seats for the Democrats in the House of Representatives by cutting up the map in California, which was done in many years, recent years, by an independent commission. This proposition on the ballot tonight is to move to a partisan map drawing.
But to do that, he had to get voter permission.
Voter permission, that's what's on the ballot tonight. This is a reaction to what President Trump has pushed in Texas and other Republican-leaning states. And you see in that map there that the proposed is a lot more blue. A lot more blue. And why is Governor Newsom doing this? He told me it's because he wants to curtail the Trump administration. He wants to fight back by giving Democrats in Washington subpoena power over this administration. This administration has pushed executive power to the limits on so many fronts. And Governor Newsom is now possible 2028 contender for the presidency. He's saying, I'm going to be out front and trying to get the Democrats, the House majority, so they can subpoena this administration day after day in 2027.
Robert, I want to pull on that thread about Governor Newsom just a little bit more because, as I understand it, The fundraising mechanism in California for Proposition 50 primarily coming from small dollar donors, not just in California, but nationwide. A lot of big institutional Democratic donors kind of sitting on the sidelines. Not necessarily bad news for Gavin Newsom if what he wants to do is have a national fundraising network.
You talk to a lot of people in Washington about Governor Newsom, and they say, oh, he's the former mayor of San Francisco, a big progressive. He's a different Gavin Newsom in the sense of how I've covered him. I covered him in July in South Carolina, talking to many black Democrats. I covered him just recent weeks in San Jose. 58 years old. He's been through a lot of political battles in California. He's now moving closer to a presidential race, and he sees an opening. He's part of the Biden wing of the Democratic Party. He was Biden's biggest supporter in the summer of 2024 when President Biden was getting it from all sides in the Democratic Party. So he has the Biden wing, likes him a lot. He also has this progressive history in San Francisco that gives him this cross-party coalition. Can he hold it together for the next 2 years? To be determined. But right now, he's making a statement.
I want to bring in David Becker, our election law expert, because he has living, breathing experience with redistricting in California, the bipartisan commission that has historically, or at least since 2010, drawn the lines in California. David, your perspective.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I served and helped advise the Independent Redistricting Commission in this last round. And the plans that California drew during the last redistricting just a few years ago weren't challenged by any party or any advocacy group. It was a tremendous success for the people of California. But I think after we've seen this very rare push for mid-decade redistricting, I can't stress enough how it's almost unheard of that voluntary mid-decade redistricting occurs from the White House, pressuring places like Texas and other states to draw more gerrymanders in favor of Republicans. I think California Democrats thought that they needed to avoid unilaterally disarming in this war and to some degree come up with some way to push back and create a political incentive structure that would change. And so that's where Prop 50 comes from. If you read the text of Prop 50, it actually references the Texas redistricting effort. And we'll see what happens tonight when the polls close in a little less than a half an hour.
And David, it's not just California and Texas. As you mentioned, other states have begun this process. Some are thinking about it. We are going to see mid-year redistricting efforts, mid-session, across the country almost.
Yeah, and I can't stress how much the losers in this constant redistricting, trying to gain 1 or 2 seats advantage in this very narrowly divided House of Representatives, how the losers are really the voters and the election officials who run elections in this country. Because the amount of work that takes place after redistricting occurs is tremendous. Voters need to be coded to receive a certain ballot for a particular district that they might be in. And that's a new district. If it's once every 10 years, that's manageable. But if it's once every 2 years, it gets to be very, very burdensome. And imagine the voters who are going to go to the polls in 2026 and afterwards, who think they might be voting in one district and might be surprised to find out they're voting in another district for completely different candidates. This is not sustainable over time, and hopefully the incentive structure changes so that we can get back to these single once-a-decade redistricting efforts.
David Becker, thank you so much. California, the polls will close there in just less than half an hour. I want to go to our correspondent, Nydia Cavazos, who comes to us from Sacramento. Nydia.
Major, we're just a couple of minutes away from having the voting centers close here in California, but there is momentum on the ground for Proposition 50. We've been talking to Newsom's team, his senior advisors, and they all feel great about tonight's results. They tell CBS News they are expecting a victory tonight, but they do caution that while they are expecting a victory, they are also anticipating a challenge from the White House and attempts for them to undermine tonight's results. So they say that they've had a legal team assembled here in California for months now in anticipation of any countering that the White House may do. Now, we've been speaking to voters on the ground since this campaign started. It's been a 59-day campaign. And when we were talking to Democratic voters, initially this started off as, we don't even know what Proposition 50 is. Some of them didn't know that there was a special election coming up in November. But as time progressed, we were listening to what voters were saying, and they kept saying, we're voting for Proposition 50 because this means it's a vote against President Trump. And so this speaks to the work that Democrats were doing on the ground, what field organizers were pitching to these voters, and they were presenting Proposition 50 as a referendum on Trump. We would hear the pitch that they would make, and they would tell these voters who they were knocking on their doors, have you been dissatisfied with what you've seen for the past months? And if that's the case, then vote for Proposition 50. And of course, the Say No team and the Republicans here in California have been saying, wait a minute, this was never about President Trump. This was about California, the congressional districts here, and the local impact that it would have. They're upset that Democrats here in California have nationalized this race. But as I mentioned, Governor Gavin Newsom and his senior advisors are expecting a victory here.
Nydia Cavazos in Sacramento, thank you so very much. It's been a few moments. I'm getting a little nervous, so I want to go back to CBS News Elections and Surveys Director Anthony Salvanto for another data desk fix. Anthony, please.
It's all good. It's all fine. Look, I just want to look ahead to Prop 50 here. Votes aren't counting yet, but they will. They'll close in a little bit. I do want to just put a point on what Nydia was just talking about. In the exit poll, 60% of Prop 50 voters told us that they saw it as partly about President Trump. Now, that's the thing that Democrats had pushed, right? So I'm going to go back to the map, and I'm just going to show you a quick viewer's guide. If we take the 2024 presidential map in California, we're going to watch all these very blue Democratic counties along the coast. That's where the yes side is going to try to run up the score. The other point on this is when the redistricting happens, if it passes, you see these Northern California areas all up in here? These are the congressional districts that are going to kind of get drawn in with the cities, with the urban areas. And the concern, of course, for a lot of Republicans and a lot of rural voters is that then they're going to get pushed in with those urban area voters. And you can see in California a very big difference between how the rural areas vote Republican and the coastal areas in blue vote Democrat, Major.
What a difference a year makes. What do I mean by that? A year ago, Kamala Harris ran 1.9 million votes behind Joe Biden in the state of California. Things look a little bit different tonight. Anthony Salvanto, thank you very much. Rita Jang, how are you assessing things thus far? And to Nydia's point from just a moment ago, on Truth Social, I believe today, I lose track of time, as we all do. Didn't the president say he was going to do something to try to legally challenge whatever the result is with Prop 50 in California?
Yes. So President Trump and the White House are already laying the groundwork to try to discredit the results of Prop 50 in case it passes. The president said it's a giant scam. He said, the entire process, in particular, the voting itself is rigged.
By that, he means all-mail voting.
All-mail voting. In fact, the White House reiterated that when I asked what evidence you have of this, and I was told California uses universal mail-in balloting. They say in the 2024 election alone, California mailed nearly 10 million mail-in ballots that were never returned, also not evidence of fraud. They also point to a DOJ lawsuit where there were more than 2.1 million duplicates in registration, but not 2.1 duplicates in votes. But still, these are the points that the White House will continue to make to try to undermine this effort, because what Robert was saying earlier about Newsom's statement that he is trying to make is also a statement of, I can stand up to Trump where it hurts. And Major, I can tell you what matters most to the president right now is the midterm elections. He is already fixated on the strategy, on what's going to happen. And starting tomorrow, I think you'll already see his surrogates out there really spinning up that strategy and talking about the midterms.
Lawyers always ask questions they know the answers to. Anchors don't always do that. Is David Becker still available? I don't know the answer to that question. Nope, he's not. So that's what happens. I was going to ask David to break down the things that the White House talks about. But in the main, California will have an answer. That all of the things that it's done followed California state law. The Constitution is very clear on time, manner, and place. States have lots of latitude in putting their elections together. It may be a rhetorical point from the White House. It may not be a legally enforceable one. Caitlin Huey-Burns, anything on your mind?
I mean, this is fascinating here because as we're talking about all the redistricting efforts, I would love to see at the end of the day kind of the comparison about who won some, who lost some, who won some and lost some. I mean, maybe this is a wash, but look, you just need 3 seats to flip, to
Control the House of Representatives.
Control the House of Representatives. I mean, what's striking to me, and I think something that Democrats are going to take away from tonight, and especially this redistricting fight, is how to kind of get their mojo back. I mean, that's what they are trying to figure out. And we're getting some data points tonight. And redistricting is one of the ways that they've been trying to do this. They've kind of abandoned a lot of previously held principles. We saw that in the Jay Jones Attorney General race, for example. We're seeing that in redistricting. They are saying we're going to fight fire with fire. They're taking pages from Donald Trump's playbook when it comes to kind of the brutality, for lack of a better word, of politics. They're trying to be more kind of get in this.
About it.
Yes, exactly. So we're seeing that in redistricting, and I think we've also seen that in Virginia. The idea that they didn't discard a candidate who said a lot of really troubling and problematic things that wouldn't have passed muster in the Democratic Party just a few years ago, they didn't seem to have a problem with it.
Robert, I'll get to you in just a second. We're going to take a quick break, but before we go to break, I want to let you know we are expecting Zohran Mamdani, mayor-elect of New York City, to speak very shortly at his campaign headquarters in Brooklyn. We will bring you those remarks when they happen. You're watching CBS News coverage of America Decides Election 2025.
No matter how you start your day, one thing is very clear.
CBS Mornings is the best way to start your day.
You better work!
Clearly.
We welcome you to CBS Mornings. I'm Gail King.
I'm Tony DeCope. I'm Nate Burleson.
Let's go.
CBS Mornings is clearly smart.
Is this a different way of doing philanthropy?
Rent at an affordable level and invest.
Could this change the way that we think about vaccines?
CBS Mornings is clearly fun. Don't you bow to your emperor.
She said,
hello, Miss Badass. We go from one badass to another.
Good morning!
It's like, yes, it's finally happening.
You meet the nicest people in our progressive green room. Guess who's here?
Jeff!
CBS Mornings is clearly uplifting. I get goosebumps when I think about this game. It just warms your heart. I feel alive. You will too.
We'll see you
on CBS Mornings. Weekdays at 7. Have a sunshiny day.
Fire away, you know me, man.
UFC's no-holds-barred leader. It's time for Dana White.
Yeah, I get it. We're on 60 Minutes. Wow. When you need your sports in us now,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
This is CBS.
Don't miss true crime anytime you want, anywhere you go. With the 48 Hours podcast. Real crimes, real lives.
Like a John Grisham novel come to life.
Real justice.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Listen to 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts.
The all-new CBS Evening News.
Lay is facing up to $1 million in tariff payments this year alone.
Joling, is Lay going to be able to keep her workers under these conditions?
We don't have the same options as large businesses.
Can your business survive this?
If this is the end of my American dream, I'm going to go down swinging. I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity, informality, and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who is a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you? Oh, come on. Join me on the takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7. Welcome back. This is CBS News America Decides Election 2025. We are expecting any moment to hear from Zohran Mamdani, mayor-elect of New York City. In the meantime, let's go through the results as we have them. According to CBS, the projected winner of the race for New York City's mayor, Zohran Mamdani, you see with 89% of the vote in, 50.4% for Mamdani, 41.6% for Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Lee with the Republican nominee, 7.1%. New Jersey governor, CBS News projects with 89% of the vote in, Mikey Sherrill, 55.9% over Jack Ciattarelli, 43.5%. Virginia governor with 92% of the vote in. CBS News projects the winner, Abigail Spanberger, the Democratic nominee over Republican nominee and current lieutenant governor in the Commonwealth of Virginia, Winsome Earl Sears. I'm joined now by CBS News political director Finn Gomez. Finn, your take on the evening thus far.
Hey, Major, happy Election Day. Yeah, look, I'm looking at two things out of this night. One is the big issue of the cycle affordability. That's an issue that really has tied together so many of these critical races today, from New Jersey to Virginia and New York. That's something that we're hearing from these successful projected winners tonight. And the other factor that I'm seeing is the Trump factor. This is the first time since Trump won almost a year ago, where we have seen voters weigh in. And so far, Democrats are making an argument that this could be a repudiation of some of his policies. And now it's speaking to both Republicans and Democrats, both parties, now looking ahead to the next big election a year from now. Those are the midterms. And speaking to both parties and leaders in both parties, they're looking at somewhat into the tea leaves of the results tonight to start assembling and building their roadmap for their parties on messaging, on voter turnout, and just their focus on these key issues as they gear up for this next pivotal race. Major?
And we talked about this a little bit with Chuck Rocha, Finn, but I like your thoughts on it because,
sure,
to your point, affordability, big issue last year that benefited President Trump and many Republicans. Now it appears to be benefiting Democrats, which suggests to me at least there is a transitory quality to voter attachment, meaning they may be with you in one election, but even a year later, just a year later, they can shift. And we saw dramatic shifts in Virginia and New Jersey.
Absolutely. And look, as you know, Major, you're the master of these elections. You know this so well. You've been covering a ton of these. But the pendulum always swings back in the American electorate. It does time and time again. And you're seeing this pendulum swing back in this cycle. Look, if I'm looking, there's something that's been talked about earlier tonight is looking at New Jersey and some of these critical areas where the Latino electorate, you saw like high percentages of Latino voters in Passaic County, for example, that did vote for Donald Trump last year over Vice President Harris. And now you're seeing in those same areas that pendulum swinging back for Democrats. And so, look, to me, if you're looking at one of the critical voting groups, are these Latino voters. And what happens now? Where do they go next year during next year's midterms? And that's something that I'm very interested in. I think both parties interested to see because that voting group could decide some of these critical frontline congressional district battlegrounds.
Finn Gomez referred to me as a master. No, just been around a very, very long time. CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian covering the Virginia governor's race from Representative Abigail Spanberger's campaign headquarters in Richmond. Nicole.
Yeah, that's right. Now the governor-elect Abigail Spanberger, and while the party is winding down here, people are very exuberant and ecstatic, not only for her win, but for this Democratic sweep, which really surpassed some expectations. You know, there was some thought that maybe people might split their tickets, particularly given the controversy involving the Attorney General candidate, Jay Jones, who ultimately was victorious here tonight. But the other thing I would point out is that across the board with this sweep, each Democrat made history in their own way. Abigail Spanberger, from the standpoint of becoming the first woman ever elected here in the Commonwealth as governor, to the Lieutenant Governor, Ghazala Hashmi, who is the first Muslim woman elected to a statewide office in the nation, and then Jay Jones, the Attorney General candidate, who is the first African American to assume the role here in the Commonwealth. So a lot of history made here in Virginia tonight, and also all of the candidates across the board really made the Trump agenda a key issue. They saw this as a referendum on the Trump agenda, whether that was the shutdown, the DOJ cuts, tariffs, you name it. So expect a lot of fight back from this new administration once it takes office. But that was also a through line in all of their messages here this evening.
Nicole Killian coming to us from Richmond. Thank you so very much. Much is going to happen and has already transpired in New York City. And the epicenter of it tonight, Brooklyn, where we find Ed O'Keefe awaiting Zohran Mamdani, the mayor-elect of New York City, who's due to address his ecstatic followers momentarily. Ed.
Major former Governor Andrew Cuomo just finished addressing his supporters. You may hear the boos. And now you see, what they're cheering is that Andrew Cuomo is leaving his stage back in Midtown Manhattan, which should leave open now the chance for Mamdani to come address his thousands of supporters gathered here in this live music venue in the heart of Brooklyn. The New York Post has already surfaced what it says will be its front page tomorrow. On your marks, get set, Zoe. Socialist Mamdani wins race for mayor in the red apple. You can see that there. That's what the New York Post cover is set to look like tomorrow. All right? Let's see if we can pick up print copies for you, Major. Bring one back in Washington for the collector's edition.
Yes, yes. Make sure you get the subtle cover of the New York Post memorialized for me, Ed O'Keefe. Always subtle, the New York Post.
One thing we noticed a little while ago, we saw the Attorney General, Tish James, who of course is under indictment by the Justice Department. We saw several members of Congress, Adriano Espaillat of Harlem, Nydia Velasquez of parts of Brooklyn, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, of course, of the Bronx and parts of Queens. Those three early supporters of him because they understood in their communities, predominantly minority communities, that the message Mamdani was delivering to voters here was resonating. We're not quite sure yet whether Mamdani will be joined on stage by any of them or take it solo, but he is set to become the 111th mayor come early January of this city. Not the youngest person to serve. There was a guy named Hugh Grant elected back in the 1800s at the ripe old age of 31. He served as mayor, so Mamdani's a little older than that. And important to remember as you start to think about what would a socialist, a democratic socialist, do as mayor of New York. Yes, he's promised things like rent freezes and free city buses and free child care. But he's got to work with a city council that's overwhelmingly Democratic, and he's got to work with the state legislature to find the tax increases necessary to pay for those things. There was intrigue and concern about whether Mamdani would hit 50% tonight, giving sort of a public mandate, a message to the voters here that they wanted what he was campaigning on. He appears to have eked out a victory just over 50%. That should help him make the case to state legislators and to the city council to start adopting what it is he wants to do. But many describe being mayor of New York as the toughest job in American politics because of the fact that while it's a prominent position and one that the world looks to, it requires a lot of cooperation with legislatures. We'll see whether he's able to prevail in his governing come next year. Again, what I was struck by, Major, one other point real quick. Yeah. This is a city, of course, known for guys like Sinatra and Billy Joel, right? Guys that have sung about this city. There was some Sinatra played earlier tonight in a hip-hop sampling, right? You don't hear those kind of songs here anymore. There's a DJ up on stage. This is a decidedly younger crowd. You're not going to hear those classics. You're going to hear those classics mixed into hip-hop and rap that have been played by the DJ tonight, reflective of the fact that he's pulled together a pretty young coalition of liberals in this city to support him.
I will sidestep the Sinatra hip-hop aspect of that, Ed O'Keefe, because I simply cannot keep up. I'm not young enough to do that. However, you mentioned Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, who's going to face a primary challenge and her own battle to have a term of her own. She has said she is opposed to raising taxes, which this new mayor-elect would have to ask her consent and that of the state legislature to accomplish. Is that impediment one for Zohran Mamdani and his expansive promises to address affordability in New York City?
As I understand it, she's mostly concerned about raising income taxes. But there are other taxes, and as someone who has family in New York, I know there are other taxes that get paid and that can be raised in order to pay potentially for what he's looking for. She's going to be one to watch most especially, and may ultimately take it on the chin the most if things here in the city start going south. Because, yes, she endorsed him. Her would-be Republican opponent, Elise Stefanik, the congresswoman from the North Country of New York, who many believe is going to announce in the coming days that she's running, calls the Hochul endorsement desperate because she's trying to capture that left wing of the Democratic Party in this city and hold on to it ahead of the primary that she's expected to face from her current lieutenant governor, Antonio Delgado. We'll see. She's certainly one to watch. All the members of Congress on Long Island and up in the suburbs of New York, Westchester County area. Tonight, the National Republican Congressional Committee, the one that works to get House Republicans elected, says they're going to make Mamdani the centerpiece of their attacks on Democrats, not only here in the Northeast, but across the country, warning that if Democrats take control of the House next year, Hakeem Jeffries and Zohran Mamdani's policies will be implemented. Democrats know that what he's doing here will not resonate in swing districts across the country, but they may hang their hat instead on the victories that they've seen tonight in Virginia, New Jersey, and elsewhere.
Ed O'Keefe, we will come back to you in Brooklyn as events require. Robert Costa, very quickly, we have a statement from another Brooklynite,
Senator
Charles
Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader in the Senate, has issued a statement. In brief, he says he congratulates the mayor-elect Mamdani. He says, I have worked with him in the past productively on vital issues, and I look forward to building on that partnership. An olive branch from Schumer to the mayor-elect. It's a Democratic Party that's moving forward, not always in perfect unison, but now tonight they see the power is on the left, and Schumer wants to be alongside it.
It is outreach, but only after the results were clear, because he did not.
Schumer's an old school politician. He knows where his city's going. He's a New Yorker, and he's not going to have a fight right now. It's all eyes on 2026. 2025 is over, 2026.
But you hear also in Schumer's statement, what you're hearing from Democrats across the country in reaction to this is they're focusing on the affordability angle. They're not focusing on the Democratic Socialist angle. Statement after statement, including Schumer, who, by the way, did not endorse Mamdani and did not say whether he voted for him. He would not tell us today who he voted for in his home city mayoral race, focusing on the issues of the economy and affordability. That is going to be echoed across Democratic circles.
Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani denies over and over when asked, I'm not a communist. What does President Trump call him? A communist.
He calls him
Among
other things, but the communist is certainly the most popular reaction that the president uses because he really is trying to paint this picture that will resonate with voters, that will stick with voters. In fact, the reason he says he ultimately endorsed Andrew Cuomo was because he said he would rather support a bad Democrat than a communist. And so whether that lands, we'll have to see. But again, this is something that Democrats might have to grapple with, and something that might explain the hesitancy to get on board with Mamdani.
And there's something I think, or I wonder, if congressional Republicans elected in the general New York City area, and there are a few, will be concerned about if President Trump actually follows through on withholding federal funds from New York City, because that will implicate the political fortunes of some of these Republicans who have constituents who might suffer as a result of this. There might be some ambivalence about that.
Well, because it really takes retribution to another level, because this is hurting everyday Americans in a brand new way. And so for him to explicitly say the things that usually aren't said out loud, I think could make a big difference.
We're going to be back in just one moment. As you see the podium there in Brooklyn, waiting for Mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, to address his enthusiastic followers and supporters. We'll get that when we come back. You are watching CBS News coverage of America Decides Election 2025.
One thing is very clear.
CBS Mornings is the best way to start your day.
Guess who's here?
Jeff! I am about to hop in with Shark. I feel alive. You will too.
CBS Mornings.
Weekdays at 7.
Sunday morning, curtain going up on the new season. Jennifer Lopez's new movie, Keanu Reeves on Broadway, and more. Listen for the trumpet.
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity and formality and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who is a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you? Oh, come on. Join me on the takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7.
Money Watch is your no-nonsense guide to taking control of your finances, where I offer practical, real-world advice with no jargon and no judgment. I'm Jill Schlesinger. Listen to Money Watch wherever you get your podcasts.
This is CBS.
Politics isn't a game. When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives? Politics is about policy. So you would encourage Democrats to work with Donald Trump on an issue like health care? I'm a voracious consumer of information, and I'm impatient. I don't like to be spun. Do you know if there are active terror cells in the United States right now? To be moderator of Face the Nation means bringing the most powerful stakeholders to the table to become better informed.
Now streaming, a teenager kills his twin sister. But was he awake when he did it?
He was shocked. He said it was a dream.
What makes you so sure that you stabbed your sister while you were sleepwalking?
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount Plus.
This is CBS News, America Decides Election 2025. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. It is 11 p.m. on the East Coast, and polls just closed in California, where voters are deciding whether to redraw their congressional maps, and we already have a projection. CBS News projects that yes on Proposition 50 will prevail in California. I want to go to CBS News Elections and Surveys Director Anthony Salvanto to explain to us what we know about that projection. Anthony.
Fast enough for you, Major?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Like it couldn't have been faster.
It literally
It simply could not have been faster, Anthony.
Right there. Look, I'm going to keep this real simple, right? For all the fancy models we've been running all night, this thing has a 24-point lead in the exit poll. We've been talking to voters. That is what they tell us. The Democrats are voting overwhelmingly for this. And even the advance vote itself was 52% Democratic. So that's a projection. That's the reason why. But I do want to show you this, because we have been looking all night at the Trump factor here, and it's really dominant in Prop 50. For people who voted yes, 80% of them said one reason was to oppose President Trump. So it's a nationalized election. Yeah, it's about redistricting, but it's also, especially in the minds of Democrats in California, it's also a lot about the president, Major.
Anthony, you know that sometimes I can ask pesky and annoying questions, so here's one. In 2010, when California voters were asked about creating this independent bipartisan commission on redistricting, that passed with 61% of the vote. Do we have any sense, and I know it is unbelievably early in the process to ask you this pesky and annoying question, do we have any sense of whether the vote, when it's all counted in California, could be at or near 61%?
Our pre-election polling had it around that. The exit poll has it around that. It could very well hit around 60%. That's the first answer to your question. But you echo back to that proposition back in 2010. There's still echoes of that. When we asked in the exit poll, who's handling redistricting fairly? The top answer was neither party. So this is, in the eyes of Californians, a response. But there still is that underlying desire, and we see this nationally, for districts that are more competitive. Voters want competitive districts, but there's this partisan back and forth. This is the first time we've seen voters be able to weigh in on this process. Everywhere else is being done by legislatures and governors, and there still is that sense of fairness there, Major.
It applies in hockey and also at the data desk. That was a kick, save, and a beauty. And Anthony Salvanto, thank you. Correspondent Nydia Cavazos is in California, Sacramento specifically. Nydia.
Major, it's a win for Proposition 50 supporters, and it's a win for Governor Gavin Newsom, who, as we know, steered this campaign. And it is also somebody who we're watching for a potential 2028 presidential run. So this is nonetheless victorious night for him. And we are awaiting remarks from Newsom shortly, now that the voting centers have closed. But now that Proposition 50 has gone through, this was the only item on the ballot for Californians, and it was asking voters to choose either yes or no if they were okay with amending the state's constitution so that they can put aside the current congressional boundaries that were drawn by an independent redistricting commission and instead adopt the new maps that were recently redrawn by Democrats to benefit their chances come next year during the 2026 midterm elections. And so these maps, the way they've been drawn is that they've been targeting 5 Republican districts in boosting Democratic chances. But it's also important to note here that there are still 2 of these districts that are still going to be in play for Republicans. So it's a matter of seeing how voters are going to turn out next year, how they're going to vote, and to determine if this, in fact, is successful. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom has said that this was all in direct response to what Texas did. He had been warning that if Texas went forward with their redistricting efforts after President Trump pushed for this, then he would counter, and he would often say that he wasn't willing to stand back, and he was asking his supporters to stand up to President Trump. And of course, as I've mentioned, over the past 2.5 months, we've been listening to field organizers, to Proposition 50 supporters trying to court voters by presenting Proposition 50 as a referendum on President Trump. They would pitch to voters, ask them, have you been dissatisfied with what you've seen during the past months? And if the answer is yes, then vote yes on Proposition 50. Now, when we spoke to Democratic voters, we were hearing a wide array of opinions. Some of them weren't for redistricting, but they said if this is a vote against Donald Trump, then we will go forward with Proposition 50.
Nydia Cavazos, thank you so very much. CBS News congressional correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns at the exit poll big screen. Tell us what you know about California.
Major, I think a big story about this proposition, this ballot measure, is the issue of principle and politics. Here, we're seeing politics win out over principle because in our exit polling, a vast majority of Californians say, or those who voted today say that they want an independent, nonpartisan commission to draw those maps, but they also are saying that which party controls Congress is most important. So yes, they would prefer to have a nonpartisan map, but on the other hand, who controls Congress is the most important. And take a look at this. The vast majority said that they are voting in favor of this measure to counter Republicans in other states. So we are looking at this nationalization of a very local issue, or what had been a local issue, what your state maps look like. Now, in the bigger puzzle of the national campaign to redraw the maps essentially everywhere, this is what Democrats in California are saying, that they are hoping that this is an effort to balance the redistricting that we've seen by Republicans in other areas.
Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you so very much. What we are waiting for, ladies and gentlemen, Zohran Mamdani, the mayor-elect of New York City, soon to be at the podium in Brooklyn. When he arrives at that podium for his remarks, which, as Ed O'Keefe noted a moment earlier, will be listened to not only across the 5 boroughs of New York City, but across our country and in certain parts of the world. We'll be tuning in to hear what this new mayor of New York City, 34, first Muslim mayor of New York City, first Democratic Socialist mayor of New York City, has to say upon his victory in that race. In the interim, I want to come back to our desk. Robert Costa, you heard Nydia Cavazos talk about the results in California, and she made a very important point. 5 districts are going to be redrawn. 4 will be redrawn in a way that is proportionally advantageous to Democrats. One of them, the 22nd district, represented currently by Republican David Valadao, will have a light redraw. No guarantees that all 5 will go to Democrats next year.
Of course, there's no guarantees, but they're going to make a big effort to make sure those all go blue come 2026 because they're watching Texas and all these other states. You watch this stage right now with Zohran Mamdani's election night, Major. I was just up in New York City covering his events. It's fascinating to watch how he holds these events. It's not just Mamdani coming on stage. For about an hour ahead of time, you have taxi drivers, you have grandmothers, you have kids from elementary school. They all get a chance to go up to the lectern. And what we're seeing tonight, we've talked about it a lot, is, yes, in part a story about the Democratic Party. It's also a story about generational politics. The baby boom generation, the silent generation have had a grip over American politics for so long. You're seeing tonight in Zohran Mamdani a real push by those in their 20s and 30s and early 40s. And you see it across New York City in particular, a push to say we want the boomers out, we want the silent generation out, we want power. We want to be able to afford to live in this city. You talk to people in their 20s and 30s, not just in New York, they feel like they can't buy a home.
Right.
They go on these websites where they list homes and everything's hundreds of thousands of dollars and they're in credit card debt. This is a generational politics story as well as a Democratic story.
Jen, Caitlin, Robert mentioned something that resonated with me when he talked about those who come before Zohran Mamdani at the podium. It reminded me of what I saw in the 2007-2008 battle for the Democratic nomination. That was the same thing that Barack Obama's campaign used, either in person or with testimonials. People explaining why they had gotten off the sidelines of politics and found inspiration in Barack Obama's campaign or messaging. I think there are some parallels to be drawn here. Weege?
Well, that was unprecedented, but certainly this does echo that in a way, because just as Ed was pointing out in the room, we were seeing young voters that in 2024 Democrats struggled so much to connect with. And we saw that on the campaign trail with former Vice President Kamala Harris. As much as she tried to get the vibes right, she could not. But for me, when I heard Robert describe that, I actually thought about the Trump campaign.
Mm-hmm. There's comparisons there, too.
Of course, because it was those young voters who saw something in Trump, who saw something on social media for the first time, who felt compelled to go out because, like many of the voters we saw tonight, they did not see a future that their parents and their grandparents had in the current political state. And they saw that in Donald Trump. And so the fact that we're seeing mirrors of this is so interesting, considering how far apart these two candidates are.
And Caitlin, there's a risk always in politics when you have enthusiasm, heart. Hearts can get broken in politics because you can have a hard time delivering all the things you promised.
Oh, absolutely. And that is Mamdani promised a lot of things, and that is going to meet the brutal reality of governing, as it often does. But just to pick up on that point, we spend billions of dollars on politics. We spend hours talking about it on television. But it is so simple sometimes.
Right.
Talk to people where they are. Talk to people about issues that they say they care about. It's not that complicated, and yet the parties have made it so much more complicated than it is. Donald Trump, I think, we've all covered him so extensively, and especially in this last campaign, didn't follow a playbook other than being his authentic self. That resonated with a lot of people, other people that may not have been drawn to his campaign. We're also seeing in these exit polls that not all of the supporters of Mamdani resonate with the Democratic Socialist message. Mm-hmm. And so that's also something about building coalitions, but basic politics. Go to people where they are, talk to them like human beings and like a human yourself. That can get you pretty far.
Don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it.
Two people I know who don't overthink politics, Chuck Rocha and Leslie Sanchez. We have the results in California. Chuck, your take.
In California, it's not a big surprise. We knew that folks in California were going to show up. A big indicator for me 30 days out in California was Republicans pulled their money back. They knew they were going to lose as well. This is a reaction to the overreaction in Texas to redistricting. And I think this may be the single biggest factor in the 2026 midterm elections, because this brunts Texas and makes the playing field equal, at least for these two states.
Chuck, what does it mean for Gavin Newsom?
It gives him, Gavin Newsom, like an old poker player, he took all his chips and he pushed them in. Win or lose, he was all in, baby. And it was good for him. It was a gamble he took. It's a gamble he win. And when people look at the midterms, they can thank Gavin Newsom for putting 5 more Democratic seats on the table that wouldn't have been there if Gavin Newsom hadn't stuck his neck out.
Leslie, Chuck mentioned the Republicans pulling their money. Two of the people most associated with trying to build an effort to oppose Proposition 50, former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger and former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, pretty much invisible. and they backed away from this as well. There weren't really many advocates on the Republican side in California to push back against Gavin Newsom. That has to be part of this story.
That's certainly the frustrating part of the story. I think that there were even delegates, individuals on the state level that were trying to push back because they saw gains among Republicans, among independent conservatives who felt that this could be their California again, kind of hearkening back to the Reagan days. They felt that there was opportunity, certainly in the Central Valley area, but as this was moving forward, it was like a tidal wave, and it took over, and they basically, as you said, they conserved their resources, and they looked for another more winnable fight. And let's talk about where that would be. Texas. Texas put 17 initiatives on the ballot, and all of those passed, giving parents back their rights, cutting taxes for families, kind of a lot of the initiatives on the economic front that you'd expect, and parents' rights that you'd expect coming from a conservative state.
Leslie Sanchez, Chuck Rocha, thank you. Julie Watts is an investigative correspondent for CBS News. She covers California politics, and she covers it very, very well. Julie, your take on what we've seen in California tonight.
It's interesting. I've been talking with insiders both from the Democrats and the Republicans, and we are hearing some say, hey, this is like political malpractice for the Republicans because they have really been MIA over the last couple of weeks. We are seeing concerns over forthcoming Republican on Republican sort of competition. When we head into the midterms, you're going to see what's left of those Republican districts, current Republicans running against other incumbents. And so really this is folks kind of saying, okay, what went wrong? What could we have done differently? Obviously, the Democrats are very happy. And the fact that we called this so early shows just how much support there has been. In fact, I believe that the governor is going to be coming out here. We've seen his team come through. So any minute we should see Governor Newsom take the podium. And as you mentioned, really he is significantly benefiting from this. Not just from sort of the public image and the national exposure, but he's gaining donors. And this has sort of been a run through for his team. The folks behind Prop 50, they are largely from Newsom land and likely going to be the folks that sort of support his run when or if he does.
And Julie, when you talk to those Republicans who mention malpractice and all the things that will now flow from this, are you already hearing either regrets or recriminations?
There is a little bit of finger pointing going on. In some cases, we're hearing, we wish that President Trump had done more. But then, President Trump reportedly said, hey, nobody asked me to do more. They kind of wanted him to back off. Folks were saying they wish that he would have fundraised. But then you have Republicans saying, listen, we often go into these races underfunded and we still win. So they were saying, the fundraising or the lack thereof was not the reason. But I will tell you, I live here and my YouTube feeds, everything has been filled with Prop 50 ads. I think I got one No on 50 text message. We haven't seen anything from the No on campaign other than, former Governor Schwarzenegger doing some of the national shows. So I think a lot of folks are wishing maybe they could have done something differently. I will tell you this, though. Even the folks here, the Democratic Party, the insiders I've been talking to, saying, listen, just because we won, this is just one step. They're saying California did what it needed to do to counter Texas. Now it's up to other blue states to counter the other red states that will inevitably get into this redistricting game.
Julie Watts, excellent as always. I appreciate it very, very much. As we all know here at the table, Robert Costa, Ouija Jane, Caitlin Huey Burns, politicians wait for one another at times like this. Gavin Newsom wants to address Californians and the nation. Zohran Mamdani wants to address New Yorkers, the nation, possibly parts of the world. Who knows how much his remarks will attract attention globally. And we're waiting for one or the other to show up at a podium. And while we wait, Robert, please pick up the ball and run with it.
I mean, politics it's an eternally surprising story. It was a year ago when Vice President Harris lost the election to President Trump, and the Democrats didn't really know who would emerge. To think that Zohran Mamdani would be one of the key voices to emerge this year, no one could have predicted it. He was not on anybody's radar.
No.
And now he's the mayor-elect of New York City. And Gavin Newsom, Began the year with the fires in Los Angeles.
Yep.
Then he faced off with President Trump on the National Guard, on the immigration raids in California.
And before that, did all these podcasts with Trumpists.
His first guest?
Much to the consternation of Democrats in the state and nationwide.
He also sat down with Steve Bannon, among others. And when I've spoken to Governor Newsom about this, I said, why do you sit down with these conservatives? He said, I'm trying to understand the Trump movement, not just fight it. He's going to fight it, but he wants to understand it. And he said his own son listens to some of these conservative podcasts. So you see Newsom now with Prop 50. He called his shot. In politics, so much about politics is you stand up and you have a message. You stand at a podium and you go, I don't like the president of the United States. Newsom did something more.
Robert Costa, let me interrupt you because, as we have been waiting, coming to the podium in Brooklyn, the next mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani. Let's watch and listen.
Thank you, my friends. The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty. I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life. But let tonight be the final time I utter his name as we turn the page on a politics that abandons the many and answers only to the few. New York, tonight you have delivered a mandate for change, a mandate for a new kind of politics, a mandate for a city we can afford, and a mandate for a government that delivers exactly that. On January 1st, I will be sworn in as the mayor of New York City. And that is because of you. So before I say anything else, I must say this. Thank you. Thank you to the next generation of New Yorkers who refused to accept that the promise of a better future was a relic of the past. You showed that when politics speaks to you without condescension, we can usher in a new era of leadership. We will fight for you because we are you. Or as we say on Steinway, ana minkum wa ilaykum. Thank you to those so often forgotten by the politics of our city who made this movement their own. I speak of Yemeni bodega owners and Mexican abuelas, Senegalese taxi drivers and Uzbek nurses, Trinidadian line cooks and Ethiopian aunties. Yes, aunties. To every New Yorker in Kensington and Midwood and Hunts Point, know this. This city is your city, and this democracy is yours too. This campaign is about people like Wesley, an 1199 organizer I met outside of Elmhurst Hospital on Thursday night. A New Yorker who lives elsewhere, who commutes 2 hours each way from Pennsylvania because rent is too expensive in this city. It's about people like the woman I met on the BX33 years ago, who said to me, I used to love New York, but now it's just where I live. And it's about people like Richard, the taxi driver I went on a 15-day hunger strike with outside of City Hall, who still has to drive his cab 7 days a week. My brother, we are in City Hall now. This victory is for all of them, and it's for all of you. The more than 100,000 volunteers who built this campaign into an unstoppable force. Because of you, we will make this city one that working people can love and live in again. With every door knocked, every petition signature earned, and every hard-earned conversation, you eroded the cynicism that has come to define our politics. Now, I know that I have asked for much from you over this last year. Time and again, you have answered my calls. But I have one final request. New York City, breathe this moment in. We have held our breath for longer than we know. We have held it in anticipation of defeat. Held it because the air has been knocked out of our lungs too many times to count. Held it because we cannot afford to exhale. Thanks to all of those who sacrificed so much, we are breathing in the air of a city that has been reborn. To my campaign team, who believed when no one else did, and who took an electoral project and turned it into so much more, I will never be able to express the depth of my gratitude. You can sleep now. To my parents, Mama and Baba, you have made me into the man I am today. I am so proud to be your son. And to my incredible wife, Rama, Hayati, there is no one I would rather have by my side in this moment and in every moment. To every New Yorker, whether you voted for me, for one of my opponents, or felt too disappointed by politics to vote at all, thank you for the opportunity to prove myself worthy of your trust. I will wake each morning with a singular purpose: to make this city better for you than it was the day before. There are many who thought this day would never come, who feared that we would be condemned only to a future of less, with every election consigning us simply to more of the same. And there are others who see politics today as too cruel for the flame of hope to still burn. New York, we have answered those fears. Tonight, we have spoken in a clear voice. Hope is alive. Hope is a decision that tens of thousands of New Yorkers made day after day, volunteer shift after volunteer shift, despite attack ad after attack ad. More than 1 million of us stood in our churches, in gymnasiums, in community centers, as we filled in the ledger of democracy. And while we cast our ballots alone, we chose hope together. Hope over tyranny. Hope over big money and small ideas. Hope over despair. We won because New Yorkers allowed themselves to hope that the impossible could be made possible. And we won because we insisted that no longer would politics be something that is done to us. Now it is something that we do. Standing before you, I think of the words of Jawaharlal Nehru. A moment comes but rarely in history when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends and when the soul of a nation long suppressed finds utterance. Tonight we have stepped out from the old into the new. So let us speak now with clarity and conviction that cannot be misunderstood about what this new age will deliver and for whom. This will be an age where New Yorkers expect from their leaders a bold vision of what we will achieve, rather than a list of excuses for what we are too timid to attempt. Central to that vision will be the most ambitious agenda to tackle the cost of living crisis that this city has seen since the days of Fiorello LaGuardia. An agenda that will freeze the rents for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants. Make buses fast and free. And deliver universal child care across our city. Years from now, may our only regret be that this day took so long to come. This new age will be one of relentless improvement. We will hire thousands more teachers. We will cut waste from a bloated bureaucracy. We will work tirelessly to make lights shine again in the hallways of NYCHA developments where they have long flickered. Safety and justice will go hand in hand as we work with police officers to reduce crime and create a department of community safety that tackles the mental health crisis and homelessness crises head on. Excellence will become the expectation across government, not the exception. In this new age we make for ourselves, we will refuse to allow those who traffic in division and hate to pit us against one another. In this moment of political darkness, New York will be the light. Here, we believe in standing up for those we love. Whether you are an immigrant, a member of the trans community, one of the many black women that Donald Trump has fired from a federal job, a single mom still waiting for the cost of groceries to go down, or anyone else with their back against the wall, your struggle is ours too. And we will build a city hall that stands steadfast alongside Jewish New Yorkers and does not waver in the fight against the scourge of anti-Semitism. Where the more than 1 million Muslims know that they belong. Not just in the 5 boroughs of this city, but in the halls of power. No more will New York be a city where you can traffic in Islamophobia and win an election. This new age will be defined by a competence and a compassion that have too long been placed at odds with one another. We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about. For years, those in City Hall have only helped those who can help them. But on January 1st, we will usher in a city government that helps everyone. Now, I know that many have heard our message only through the prism of misinformation. Tens of millions of dollars have been spent to redefine reality and to convince our neighbors that this new age is something that should frighten them. As has so often occurred, the billionaire class has sought to convince those making $30 an hour that their enemies are those earning $20 an hour. They want the people to fight amongst ourselves so that we remain distracted from the work of remaking a long broken system. We refuse to let them dictate the rules of the game anymore. They can play by the same rules as the rest of us. Together, we will usher in a generation of change. And if we embrace this brave new course, rather than fleeing from it, we can respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism with the strength it fears, not the appeasement it craves. After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So, Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up. We will hold bad landlords to account because the Donald Trumps of our city have grown far too comfortable taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks. We will stand alongside unions and expand labor protections because we know, just as Donald Trump does, that when working people have ironclad rights, the bosses who seek to extort them become very small indeed. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, as of tonight, led by an immigrant. So hear me, President Trump, when I say this. To get to any of us, you will have to get through all of us. When we enter City Hall in 58 days, expectations will be high. We will meet them. A great New Yorker once said that while you campaign in poetry, you govern in prose. If that must be true, let the prose we write still rhyme, and let us build a shining city for all. And we must chart a new path, as bold as the one we have already traveled. After all, the conventional wisdom would tell you that I am far from the perfect candidate. I am young, despite my best efforts to grow older. I am Muslim. I am a democratic socialist. And most damning of all, I refuse to apologize for any of this. And yet, if tonight teaches us anything, it is that convention has held us back. We have bowed at the altar of caution, and we have paid a mighty price. Too many working people cannot recognize themselves in our party. And too many among us have turned to the right for answers to why they've been left behind. We will leave mediocrity in our past. No longer will we have to open a history book for proof that Democrats can dare to be great. Our greatness will be anything but abstract. It will be felt by every rent-stabilized tenant who wakes up on the first of every month, knowing the amount they're going to pay hasn't soared since the month before. It will be felt by each grandparent who can afford to stay in the home they have worked for, and whose grandchildren live nearby because the cost of childcare didn't send them to Long Island. It will be felt by the single mother who is safe on her commute and whose bus runs fast enough that she doesn't have to rush school drop-off to make it to work on time. And it will be felt when New Yorkers open their newspapers in the morning and read headlines of success, not scandal. Most of all, it will be felt by each New Yorker when the city they love finally loves them back. Together, New York, we're going to freeze the... Together, New York, we're going to make buses fast and... Together, New York, we're going to deliver universal... Let the words we've spoken together, the dreams we've dreamt together, become the agenda we deliver together. New York, this power, it's yours. This city belongs to you. Thank you.
As you listen to the speech of Zohran Mamdani, mayor-elect of New York City, of asking yourself this question: was that a victory speech to become mayor of New York, or the acceptance speech at the Democratic National Convention? Because it had aspects of both. Lots of granular references to things to be done in New York City, but also very lofty rhetoric about a turnstile moment for the Democratic Party, setting aside mediocrity and caution and pursuing grand ambitions and referring to the President of the United States as a tyrannical despot that would be challenged first and foremost by this newly elected mayor of New York City. And interestingly, the first name to appear in Zohran Mamdani's acceptance speech, Eugene V. Debs, who was a founding member of the Industrial Workers of the World, a 5-time Socialist Party of America candidate for president. He ran for that office in 1920, the 5th time from a prison cell. Why? Because he challenged the draft for World War I. To have Eugene Debs mentioned first and foremost by Zohran Mamdani puts this speech in that kind of socialist, progressive, historical context. Robert Costa, your thoughts?
What a speech in terms of the context of this political moment. So rarely in history do you see American politics being jolted. You think about 1964 with Senator Barry Goldwater pulling the Republican Party to the right. Tonight in New York City, Zohran Mamdani pulling it to the left, citing Eugene Debs and saying to the world, I am a democratic socialist and I don't apologize for it at all. He had moments of blunt political force. He talked to President Trump to his face, turn up the volume. But he also had elements of having a bit of an olive branch. He quoted 2 former Italian-American leaders in New York, Fiorello LaGuardia and Mario Cuomo, the father of his opponent, who he said, we're going to send you off to the private sector. But you see tonight, Zohran Mamdani, no one else on stage, him alone, prepared. He has his message, and he's ready to take it not only to New York, but what we saw from that speech, he's taking it to the country.
Weeta Jane?
You know, Major, I think overused phrases become overused for a reason, but he clearly met the moment, and not just the moment for New York City, but I think he was able to express something that many Democrats have failed to do. So it's not enough to put your pulse on the frustrations of those in your party, but you have to take that frustration and somehow give it back in a way that really resonates with people, that connects with people. And that is based on an X factor that some political potential stars have. And when you see it, you know it. And you might not be able to exactly describe why, but I think tonight we saw that he has far bigger aspirations than being the mayor of New York City.
Caitlin, there were several references to the dignity of work, calloused hands, long hours, a reference to politics was done to us. Now it's something that we do. Not the first time someone elected to high office has said, those of you who have been marginalized will now get a seat at the table. That is rhetorically a flourish. It is very hard to do in practical City Hall politics.
Yes, and even in our exit polling, those who supported him say they acknowledge that he may not be able to do a lot of the things that he promised. But I also couldn't help but see these parallels to Donald Trump himself. No holding back, declaring who he is and what he wants to do. Everyone else be damned. I mean, that is the brand of politics that Democrats, at least in this moment, are celebrating, because they haven't had that kind of thing in a while. I do think, tomorrow I'm going to go back to Capitol Hill on my day beat, and we're going to be asking Democrats, is Mamdani the face of the party? We've been asking that all week. People have been very reluctant to say so. And I have a feeling that people are going to say up there, the Bernie Sanders and the like, one thing. But I think people are going to say there are 2 paths present to Democrats right now. This is a big tent, is what they are going to say, because they not only have this election in New York, they have the election in New Jersey and in Virginia, where they ran more moderate candidates who don't talk like that, but also don't elicit that kind of energy. So the party is at a crossroads. You can't extrapolate so much from these kinds of off-year elections, but Democrats are going to be looking at the data points and looking at different ways they can campaign across the country. Republicans, we know, though, every Democrat in their view is Zohran Mamdani.
And I just have to mention that President Trump is also looking at this. He tweeted 6 minutes ago during the speech and said, "And so it begins." Very mysterious, but one can assume he's talking about what's happening, which was Mamdani's speech.
And quite clearly foreshadowing a confrontation to come. That wraps a very big night. Wraps it up. A very big night for Democrats. Our coverage will continue on your local news and tomorrow on CBS Mornings. Thank you to all our correspondents, contributors, and guests. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. It's been a real pleasure to be with you. Thanks for joining us, and good night.
Serving you is worth any tough fight I have to take on, and I am incredibly honored to be your next governor. As governor, my job will be to put Virginia first, full stop.
The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
The all-new CBS Evening News.
Lay is facing up to $1 million in tariff payments this year alone.
Joling, is Lay going to be able to keep her workers under these conditions?
We don't have the same options as large businesses.
Can your business survive this?
If this is the end of my American dream, I'm going to go down swinging.
Sunday morning, curtain going up on the new season. Jennifer Lopez's new movie, Keanu Reeves on Broadway, and more. Listen for the trumpet.
Live now.
Here we go.
The ultimate tradition continues.
From what I've seen, it's like chaos.
America's #1 news program is now a free streaming channel with full episodes anytime.
Hey, let's go. 60 minutes. Is this what you want?
You're willing to talk about anything. I'm open to all of it.
The hardest hitting interviews.
The former president is known to watch 60 Minutes. If he's watching, what would you want to say to him? Here, Bill, look at this.
The most influential people.
Who's the best coach in college football? Let me see a mirror so I can look at it. Are you a billionaire yet?
None of your business. Ain't you trying to get me robbed? Exclusive investigations.
Am I getting a real look at what life is like in here today? Absolutely not.
Do you think people visiting know that these were looted?
For stories that impact our lives, 60 Minutes demands answers.
To those holding American hostages, you say what?
So many American officials are being targeted. Why is it not a bigger issue?
What is the most important takeaway for our audience?
What is your role in all of this?
How big of a problem is doping? Where was the military?
Why are people suspicious? That sounds like a problem.
How is this possible?
Oh, come on. Whoa.
Wow.
What is going on?
I'm Scott Pelley. I'm John Worth.
I'm Leslie Stahl.
I'm Bill Whitaker.
I'm Sharon Alfonsi.
I'm Cecilia Vega.
I'm Anderson Cooper.
This is 60 Minutes.
The CBS News original.
Showtime, baby.
It's time for 60 Minutes. Watch anytime.
To be moderator of Face the Nation means bringing the most powerful stakeholders to the table to become better informed. When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives?
Ready?
Yeah.
You ready? And 1, 2, 3. Hey!
I can see clearly now.
Look at his outfit. Amazing. Give me some love, baby. We got a toy. Look at this. Oh, no! Time for another quick meal you can make any night of the week. We've got tips to save on clothes, tech, and more.
How I got here is nothing short of like a miracle.
Talent.
Talent.
It's a bright way to start your day.
See you on CBS Mornings.
The CBS Evening News, not like anything else on TV.
If people are watching this, what do you want to tell them?
We need help.
When your husband had a heart attack, if you had to go to the next closest hospital, how long would that take?
Over a half an hour.
The CBS Evening News.
The U.S. is mourning the loss of a giant in American politics. Former Vice President Dick Cheney died last night at the age of 84. Cheney is often referred to as the most powerful vice president in U.S. history, serving alongside former President George W. Bush for 8 years. Before that, he worked under multiple other administrations with roles including Defense Secretary, White House Chief of Staff, and Congressman. Cheney's family said he died from complications of pneumonia and cardiac and vascular disease. In a statement, they wrote that he taught his children and grandchildren to, quote, live lives of courage, honor, love, kindness, and fly fishing. Former President George W. Bush also said, quote, history will